Would it come to fruition or not? Did not know. We talked very briefly a couple of Fridays ago. You were in Columbia, Sterling, and we had mentioned that when Juju Smith-Schuster was released, Matt Nagy liked Juju a lot. So did that mean there was going to be a connection between the two and they were going to bring Juju Smith-Schuster back? Didn't know, but certainly there was a little interest. And then that was it. And then we moved on. And we've talked a lot about wide receivers since then. Who's going to be the 6/7 wide receivers on this team come cut down tomorrow? Who's on the outside looking in? Who's on the inside looking out, etc. How this team was going to view their wide receiving core. Was Kadarius Toney a guy that was going to make the team? Was Sky Moore going to make the team? Justin Ross, Nico Remigio. Like a number of us, we've had 3 or 4 different versions of our 53-man roster. And we'll have another one tomorrow before the entire 53-man roster is released. But we'll have another one of those. And that will include Juju Smith-Schuster now. Since Juju Smith-Schuster has been signed by the Kansas City Chiefs, brought back on a 1-year deal, and getting the veteran minimum. We talked about it last year in the offseason, that the Chiefs were very much interested in bringing Juju Smith-Schuster back. He was a free agent. They obviously signed him on a 1-year deal. They loved what they got from him. Patrick Mahomes loved what he got from Juju Smith-Schuster. They wanted to bring him back. The Patriots offered him 3 years. There was no way the Chiefs were going to give Juju Smith-Schuster and his old knees 3 years. By the way, that was Juju Smith-Schuster saying he had old knees. All right, so that was not somebody saying, hey, this guy's got old knees. Juju said that himself. I have old knees. I also have old knees, Juju. I just haven't played football my entire life on said knees. So I didn't think that. So we knew that he wasn't going to be brought back then once there was a 3-year contract. But the Chiefs were interested. Maybe 2 years, maybe bringing him back on another 1-year deal. But they certainly did not want to pay him $10 million a year for 3 years like the New England Patriots were willing to pay Juju Smith-Schuster. It didn't make sense for them. They end up winning a Super Bowl without Juju, with a really bad wide receiving core. And they go into this year, they get Hollywood, they draft Xavier, Rashee Rice, another year under his belt, a full offseason in the NFL. You have a lot more optimism and hope about what this wide receiving core can be. Expectations as well, that there aren't going to be as many drop passes as there was last year. There were a lot of them. We knew Matt Nagy was interested in Juju Smith-Schuster. I was told on Thursday, Juju's coming back. Could not get it verified. Didn't say anything. But this is not a surprise today that Juju's coming back. The question is, what does it mean? And how does the wide receiving core stack up now? So what does it mean that they're bringing back Juju Smith-Schuster? Good player. You want to accumulate good players? Is it Rashee Rice and the potential suspension? Is it having another player that Mahomes has had history with, at least even for 1 year, that Matt Nagy has worked with to a degree? Matt Nagy was the quarterback coach when they won the Super Bowl against the Eagles. So he worked directly and very closely with Patrick Mahomes that year. So not necessarily with Juju Smith-Schuster, the wide receivers, or as the OC, like Bieniemy. So what do we make of this? I've got a number of opinions on this as to what I think this is. But what do you guys think?
Is Hollywood's injury worse than expected? Rashee Rice's suspension was my first thought. And then I guess my final one is confusion. Utter confusion. Because if Hollywood's injury is not that bad, if Rashee Rice isn't getting suspended, this makes zero sense. I know people will say, well, okay, now your wide receiver 5 spot's better, or wide receiver 6 spot's better. I always go back. How many targets did wide receiver 6 get last year? Hardly any. That's a special teams role. Juju ain't playing special teams. To me, this is the death nail for Nico Remigio. As much as Dave Tobe wants to pound the table for him, they saw Sky Moore look pretty darn solid in the return game. Now I for sure don't think Nico Remigio makes the team. Kadarius Toney, not making the team. Justin Ross, sorry, I don't think he's making the team. Again, barring Rashee Rice suspension or Hollywood's injury being worse than expected. I guess you're still going with 7, but now Sky Moore becomes the de facto special teamer. I just don't understand this at all, especially with what Juju did last year. He was injured again last year, played in 11 games, 260 yards. Now, I get, obviously, a lot of that was the quarterback play. It was absolutely atrocious. Bob Douglas looked fine with that quarterback.
DeMario?
Yeah, he goes by Pop.
Does he really? Oh, I just
I thought you said Bob.
I thought you said Bob as well.
Pop. Sorry, Pop.
I was like, who's Bob Douglas?
I was trying not to pop my peas too much on this. That's why I have the little mic thing.
You were on the bachelor party a couple Fridays ago. But anyway, continue. DeMario Douglas, wide receiver, Juju.
Point remains, I don't understand this, barring something bad for the Chiefs.
I view it in a way of what Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady used to do, of just wanting a guy back. I think that Patrick Mahomes was somebody that had a very strong connection with Juju Smith-Schuster when he was here, and when he became available, I'm sure there was conversations of, hey, is this something worth bringing back? Do you think he could plug right into this offense? And look, the Chiefs have done this before with some guys that left the organization or were traded or signed elsewhere. They become available again, and they go out there and get him. McCole Hardman last year, I believe they got him because he knew this offense, he could pick it up pretty easily. I think this shows that, maybe there's just more trust in Juju than there could ever really be with a Sky Moore or a Nico Remigio or a Kadarius Toney or a Justin Ross. And I don't think he'll be any higher than 4th on the depth chart. It might be an interchangeable spot between him and Justin Watson. I do think there's a no-lose situation here, though. I mean, if you had to ask me who I would trust more, then, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justin Ross, or Juju Smith-Schuster with Patrick Mahomes. Well, I think even though it was 2 years ago, the eye test would tell me Juju Smith-Schuster instead of Moore or Toney or Ross or Remigio. And maybe that's what Matt Nagy or Patrick Mahomes thought as well of, hey, he comes back, he can be healthier this year, limited role, not on the field as much. He could give you more production there. I mean, there had to have been some reason there, or, as Sterling brought up, maybe Hollywood Brown's injury lingers a little bit longer, or there could be something to the Rashee Rice scenario, and you wanted to go out there and get somebody you don't have to reteach the offense.
So here's what I was told. I was told that Matt Nagy was interested in Juju Smith-Schuster when he was released. And then, following up and trying to find as much information as I could, what I'm told is that Matt Nagy had a lot to do with Juju Smith-Schuster returning, and it's independent and not specifically related to Rashee Rice. That if Rashee Rice hadn't been arrested, hadn't had the incident, wasn't facing a suspension either this year or next year, Juju would still be on the team today. He would have been signed. He'd be on the team today. So I don't know if that still is the belief that the Chiefs don't know if Rashee Rice is going to be suspended this year. If it's like Clark Hunt said, the NFL lets the legal process play out and then they do their own investigation. It's like the email that was sent to Mike Florio. The NFL lets the legal process play out, then we do our own investigation. Then we figure out the suspension. Well, the court case isn't set. There's a civil case set for December. He may plead out before that, and the case may come to its conclusion. I think there's certainly an element of possibility that could be done this year. There's also a possibility that it's not done this year, and then, we see Rashee Rice maybe suspended next year. Juju Smith-Schuster would be on the team regardless, if that was the case, regardless of whatever Rashee Rice was going through. This tells me a couple of things. One, I think they're absolutely done with Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
I think this is bad news for Nico Remigio and Justin Ross. I think there's an element of they like Sky Moore. I mean, the guy didn't even play last Thursday, so they sat the starters and guys that were on the team. So Sky Moore is going to be on the team. Me connecting the dots. If Matt Nagy is the champion for Juju Smith-Schuster to bring him back, that Nagy wants Juju Smith-Schuster. Me connecting the dots. That is Patrick Mahomes wanting Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
Nagy worked again. He was the quarterback's coach with Patrick Mahomes the season that Juju Smith-Schuster played with the Chiefs. He was his trusted target after Kelsey. It was Kelsey, and then it was Juju in the games that he played. I think he missed one game because of the concussion. He wasn't necessarily the same after that for a couple of games. But also in the Super Bowl, I mean, he was a guy that Mahomes kept throwing to and was throwing to on that third down play.
Yeah.
He was held by James Bradbury, but that was the route, and Juju won. He won that rep. He beat Bradbury.
True.
Bradbury had to hold him because Juju won. That's the whole point about, oh, you're really going to call that? Yes, because if you don't, you've taken away the route that Juju just put on Bradbury to earn the leverage on the outside and the step and a half. Bradbury pulls him, even that slight tug, then slows Juju down, lets Bradbury catch up, and now the route is not won by Juju because the defender had to grab to get back, to catch back up. Mahomes doesn't ever want to get into the situation he had last year. He wants as many guys available that he can trust. He can trust Kelsey. I think you can see that he's trusting Rashee Rice since he's gone to him a lot. He's developing a trust with Xavier Worthy since he keeps throwing it to him. And there's already the developed trust with Juju Smith-Schuster. To me, this is about the offense, bringing somebody in. It's not to pacify Patrick Mahomes.
Sure.
It's to say he already knows the offense. And if that means Justin Watson slides down to the fifth receiver, 5th, 6th, 7th can be your special teamers. Justin Watson was a four-phase wide receiver before he got more and more and more playing time.
Good call.
Sky Moore, McCole Hardman, guys like that can play special teams. You're right. Juju's not playing special teams, not with those knees. But I think there's a chance he slides up to the number 4. Whether that means he takes Justin Watson's exact role, no, they're different.
Yeah.
They're not playing the same role. Rashee Rice and Juju will overlap some in getting in the zone, finding the soft spots. Mahomes believing that person's going to be where he's supposed to be, reading the defense together the same like Kelsey and Mahomes do, the way that Juju and Mahomes did a couple of years ago. I like the move because it makes you better. You're not spending any money. I mean, it's $1 million, 1.6, whatever it is. It's 1 year for Juju. And if his knees give out, you're in the same spot you were yesterday as today if his knees don't have it. What I would be concerned about is if they try to force him into being like, okay, now Mahomes trusts him so much, now he's a starter. Right?
Yes.
Now he's going out there and starting. Without Hollywood Brown, maybe he is that anyway.
Sure.
Maybe he goes out there and it's Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Juju, as opposed to us saying it's going to be Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Justin Watson.
Yeah.
You've just added somebody else that Mahomes can trust. If it means Hollywood Brown's injury lasts 4 weeks, maybe that's the case. If it means it's only 2 weeks, maybe that's the case. Or what I believe to be the case is that regardless of Hollywood and the injury and regardless of Rashee Rice, Juju's on the team because Matt Nagy wanted him.
Yeah.
And by proxy, that tells me that Patrick Mahomes really wanted him.
Again, I don't want it to sound like I was disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
It's more confusion. It's more perplexing. Again, I'm not mad that Juju's back.
You're just disappointed. You're not mad.
I'm not
mad.
disappointed.
See,
I'm not
You're
mad.
getting ready to be a dad. Not specific, but when you are a dad.
Yeah,
maybe
when I am one.
I shouldn't say that you're getting ready. Good God.
Yeah, wait a
Not
minute.
that I know of, or
Wait a-
you know of, or your wife knows of. I don't know.
That'd be
maybe
news to all of us.
Let me just say this. Maybe one day if you're a dad, you're already figuring these things out.
yeah.
You're not mad. You're just disappointed.
Yeah, let's
I know.
ready to rock and roll.
Sorry. But you're not disappointed.
I
either.
don't want him to eat into the Rashee Rice role because I find those very overlapping. And maybe I'm wrong, but you're right. He can jump ahead of Watson if that's how you want to view it on the pecking order.
Just pecking order is a
But
good
but
way
but
to put it.
again, this again means Watson's probably playing more special teams. This means Sky Moore is your special teamer at wide, which is fine. We expected him to at least do some kick returns, and then I guess McCole Hardman. What does this mean for him? Again, if he's your guy on third down, you throw in there because he knows where to be on third down in a specific role. That does make the team better. It does. Again, maybe I'm a little bit too much of a worrier here. I keep worrying about special teams way more than the average fan, just with the new kickoff rules and everything. So maybe that's why I've been so resistant to like the Justin Rosses or the, again, Jujus of the world. Not against them as a receiver, but again, the special team aspect of it. But the Chiefs know more than I do. Obviously, you're right. They have a relationship with Juju, and they kind of did what they did with the offensive line. When they lost the Super Bowl, hey, we're spending so much resources right here. We don't care if we do overkill here. We don't care if we have to overpay for Jawan Taylor. We're going to make sure that Patrick's upright. We don't care if we have to bring in 7 wide receivers. We don't care. Patrick's going to have someone he can throw to and someone that Patrick trusts. End of the day, if Patrick wants the dude, that's good enough.
Juju Smith-Schuster in the playoffs had 12 targets and 10 receptions from Mahomes. So, and he also had, in the regular season, Juju Smith-Schuster's career high in catch percentage was with Mahomes at 77%. I mean, Mahomes threw to him 101 times, and he caught 78 of them. There's a real relationship there between the two. And I think this is a lot about Patrick Mahomes, and it's a lot about Matt Nagy. So I am totally in favor of this because it's cheap. I wasn't in favor of a 3-year deal for Juju Smith-Schuster because of what we saw in New England last year. Like, I didn't trust his knees. Like, they were having to find ways to take some load off of Juju Smith-Schuster and his legs throughout the season, whether that's practice time, whatever it is. You just find a way to handle those things. And they did. And he went out there and played 16 games. Great. You know, started 14 of them, missed 1 game, and then played in all 3 of the playoff games when they ended up, winning the Super Bowl. And had the 7 catches, not for a lot of yards, 7 catches, 59 in the Super Bowl, but again, it was who Mahomes was targeting in the Super Bowl was Juju Smith-Schuster. I would put my wide receiving core tomorrow at cutdown day as Hollywood, Rice, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, and McCole Hardman. That would be my 7. I think McColl's still on for Hardman. Sky didn't play last Thursday. They like Juju. And Justin Watson is also a security blanket for Patrick Mahomes. I think if you created for Patrick Mahomes at least 5 guys he feels, plus Kelsey at 6 receivers that he feels like he could probably trust and throw the ball to, and they're not going to drop it or have it go through their hands into the defender.
What a far cry from last year.
Right. And I think that's when Brett Veach ran down on the field after the Bucs game to tell Patrick Mahomes, never again. You'll never play a game like this that matters again. We're never going to put you in this spot again where you are running for your life. I think there's an element of, after last year's Super Bowl, even in a win, never again, Patrick. We're getting Hollywood. We're drafting Xavier. If Juju's available, Juju's available. Rashee Rice is a guy we drafted last year. We're finding guys to make sure you don't have to throw to Kadarius and Sky Moore and MVS as your number 1 targets. Never again, Patrick.
Because we found out we can win one-dimensionally, but we don't want to make that a habit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is true that we have to look through a different lens of Juju today and Juju in 2022.
For sure.
And it's not like we can look at this roster move and say, well, just because he's in a limited role, he's back with Kansas City, he's going to go back to a 900-yard receiver. We're not expecting that. But this also provides the insurance of you go into week 1 and Hollywood Brown maybe isn't there. And let's say it takes Xavier Worthy a few weeks to get adjusted to everyday action or every Sunday action in the NFL, and he's a rookie, and it just has a little bit of an adjustment. This just gives you that cushion with somebody has done it at the NFL level. Whereas if you didn't have Juju, and let's say Hollywood's not out there, let's say Xavier Worthy struggles the first couple weeks, well, your next guy to turn to would be Justin Watson, which he has done it at the NFL level before, but I think you want to have just that extra cushion there because we have not seen Sky Moore do it at the NFL level, at least at a successful rate. We have not seen Nico Remigio ever do it at the NFL level. We haven't seen Justin Ross do it at a consistent level at the NFL level. And even if Juju Smith-Schuster comes in and he gives you 300 yards this year, well, that might just be more than what Remigio was ever going to give you or what Justin Ross was ever going to give you or Kadarius Toney was ever going to give you. And this is what Patrick Mahomes has earned and winning multiple MVPs, winning multiple Super Bowls is you can say, hey, I want this guy back. And even if they go, well, he's got bad knees, he had an ankle injury, he had 200 yards last year. What do you see in him? Well, I feel comfortable throwing him the football, and I probably imagine that's what it came down to. And maybe as early as week 1, he's ahead of Justin Watson, as you said, and that's just somebody I would feel comfortable and Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball to because he did it so much. Even if it was 2 years ago, let's not act like Juju's 35. He's 27, right? He's still relatively young in terms of just the average age of an NFL player. And I don't know, maybe being back with a good quarterback, unlike what he had in New England, and also having the focus put on him a little bit, he gets to blend into the background, and whatever he gives you, I think it's good value considering you're only paying him $1.5 million.
Yeah, and to your point about like what you get from these different players, different receivers, maybe he only gives you 300 yards. Well, if he gives you 300 yards, that would be more than what Sky Moore gave you last year in a much less crowded wide receiver room that Sky Moore had those opportunities. And in terms of like trust, throwing the ball, expecting somebody to be there, Patrick Mahomes threw the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster 2 years ago 101 times. There were 23 incompletions. He threw to Sky Moore 38 times. There were 17 incompletions. I mean, put it in that perspective. I throw the ball to this guy 101 times, and I complete all but 23, so 78. I throw to this guy 38 times, and I'm only completing 21 of them. 70 more targets with only 6 more incompletions between the two. I mean, you've moved that guy down the pecking order. And if he's somebody that has to, if a rash of injuries happen and Sky Moore then has to be more of a used player, have him out there for more snaps, okay, then that's better than a rash of injuries and now Nico Remigio or Justin Ross or Kadarius Toney have to have more reps. He ain't exactly a guy that Mahomes has put his trust in Sky Moore, but it adds depth to the wide receiver group. The floor is raised for the wide receiver group, and you take care of your best asset in Mahomes because you care what he thinks. You care how he feels. You care enough to tell him after the Bucs game, never again. You care enough to go out and revamp your wide receiver group because of what he had to deal with last year. And if Mahomes says, I'd really like Juju back here, he's somebody that I can trust. I'm going to throw him the ball. I feel good about him. And if Matt Nagy working with Patrick Mahomes all year, 2 years ago, and Juju was his go-to guy, I'm assuming Matt Nagy in the meetings in the quarterback room would hear what Patrick would say about Juju. And he's available, and now Matt Nagy is saying, we need to bring Juju back. Let's get Juju back in here. You're taking care of Patrick Mahomes, too. There ain't nothing wrong with that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Jack Johnson hanging out with us. Dylan Michaels. Sterling Holmes. We had up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Josh Kaiser coming up at 11 o'clock, typically at noon, but we'll talk to him coming up at 11, and then we will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs around 12:30 or so. We'll hear from some players out at Arrowhead as they will be wrapping up practice today. So we'll see which players will be at the podium today. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. Text says, this came down to Juju and Ross, and they trust Juju more. Better blocker, better route runner, replacement for Rice. Like McCole is a replacement for Brown or Worthy. Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely the case. I think this is part of making the team better, trying to raise the floor. Text says Rice suspension insurance. I think that is an added benefit. I think that is one of those things that it can also be that, but it isn't signed for that. So, hey, if Rice gets suspended, this is a guy, again, there's the caveat, if healthy. I mean, that's the thing about Juju Smith-Schuster, if healthy. Will he stay healthy all year? I don't know. I have no idea. Was he more injured last year? Because why am I going to go out there and play at 70% for a team that's only winning 3 games versus I'll play at 70% for a team that has a chance to win a Super Bowl? Right, wrong, indifferent? There's a mindset of NFL players that, okay, I've got my money to earn too, and so I don't need to keep messing up my knees and playing injured for a team that's going to win 3 games. We're not doing anything. Maybe you don't like that mindset, but the mindset for the Chiefs would be the exact opposite. If I'm injured and I'm playing at 70% or I'm only at 70%, I'll go out there and play. I just think that's I think it's a good move overall. You help Patrick Mahomes, you help the offense. You don't have to rely on Sky Moore as much, and you don't have to feel like you are searching for somebody to help out Mahomes, searching for anybody for Mahomes to throw to that he feels like he can trust. And I thought that, last year, as the season went on, they put Rice more and more into the game because, he was understanding the offense more and more, but also somebody needed to play. Somebody had to be out there for Patrick Mahomes to throw the ball to. 913-912-4810. 913-912-4810. Text says, Jack, when you said Juju Smith-Schuster, said, that made me want to hear the supercut of Shane trying to say Juju Smith-Schuster. Shane always said Juju Smith-Schuster.
It's the worst tongue twister. Now that he's back, we got to deal with this
Right,
again.
I know. It was because 2 years ago, he's like, I don't want them to sign Juju. I swear they better not sign Juju. I don't want anything to
We'll just
do
call
with
him Juju.
Juju Smith. Juju Smith. Never mind. Just call him Juju. And it's very easy. By the way, Texter, I thought of the same thing.
Yeah.
When Jack did that, I was like, oh, man.
You say it too quickly. You're
Yeah,
gonna be
that's
in a
right.
world of pain.
Sometimes you gotta practice, man. That's right. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show. 913-912-4810. Text says, I've been saying they would get Juju if his knees were okay, and you guys have been ignoring me. Just like I said it would be better if they got rid of Hill and got a bunch of picks for him. My bad for ignoring you. Never again. I'm going to get notifications from that texter. Actually, you know what? Here's my personal cell phone. You just keep texting me, okay? Look, and going back to the Tyreek Hill, it's the process versus the actual utilization of the acquired assets. I like the idea of acquiring the assets and the draft picks. How you utilize those will go a long way to deciding if it was worth the deal or not. I loved the Philadelphia 76ers process. They just spent the draft picks poorly. Do you have that? Oh, no. Dylan Gay said 1 second.
I'm trying.
Okay, never mind. All good.
Still searching.
Oh,
so.
still searching. Okay.
Hang on.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. 913-912-4810. I do want to talk some Royals baseball. What, Dylan, you got it now? All right, great. Let's hear it. Just for old time's sake. I love you, Shane. I just want to say this before Dylan plays this, okay? Just want to let you know how much I appreciated the time that you were on the show. And I blame the texter, really, for bringing this up.
Juju Smith-Schuster. Yeah.
Yes.
Juju Smith-Schuster. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. There was a.
You just got to give up at that point.
Yeah,
we're moving on.
You found the other one? Oh, sure. Why not? Sorry, Shane. Again, I love you. I appreciate everything you did for the show. It's not my fault they re-signed Juju. All right?
It shows Juju Smith-Schuster. Yeah.
Yes. God, I love everything about Shane.
Yes.
His Shane-ness is so
I
awesome.
want them to sign Juju Smith-Schuster now.
Just for this reason.
Because I want Shane to have to talk about
I
him
don't care.
week by week.
I'll
I
just
don't care what
start
it
calling him
costs.
Juju.
You know what? From now on, Corey is now on the Juju. Corey will be championing Juju the way he did Chris Jones last year for one specific reason. It's because Shane would have to say the full name. That's true. And that's what happened. All right, let's talk a little Royals baseball. The Royals have they've made a habit out of playing good teams, either avoiding a sweep or taking game one and then losing the next two. It's really interesting how they've done that. They can't win a rubber match, but they'll be damned if they get swept in a game against the team that they've lost two of already back-to-back games against. I find that to be a level of fascinating. Maybe that's one of those odd baseball things. I don't know. Maybe if they would have been beaten on Friday night, we would be talking about a sweep right now. But it's just odd that how many times, Jack, we've had a conversation of, I mean, they won game one. You got to find a way to win those next two, and you didn't. All right, they won game one of that series. How do you got to find a way to win one of the next two, and they didn't. And boy, you got to find a way to avoid the sweep. You can't get swept. Oh, they did. Nice job. But rubber matches have been terrible for them this year, and if they make the playoffs, it would behoove them to win the first two games.
That's true.
To not have to face a rubber match in that particular matchup. But these last two games were really frustrating, and they felt like the first two games against the Twins. Then the Royals bounced back and beat the Twins. If this was Friday and Saturday against the Phillies and it was frustrating games and you lost, 22-5, and then you bounced back and won on Sunday the way they did on Friday night, maybe we'd be having those same conversations of, okay, you got a better feel going into this Cleveland game, this Cleveland doubleheader, but it's not the case. They come off back-to-back games where they've given up 22 runs, 11 of those coming from Will Smith, Angel Zerpa, and Chris Stratton. Zerpa's not with the team anymore. He was he was sit down. He was optioned down to AAA. They brought up Daniel Lynch. Alec Marsh is the 27th guy today for the doubleheader. He is starting the second game tonight, is Alec Marsh, as Cole Reagans will go in the first game. But it's 11 runs from Will Smith, Angel Zerpa, and Chris Stratton. 11 of the 22 runs. There's a little bit of a caveat there when you give up 22 runs and you're like, yeah, but those are the guys that aren't really going to be pitching in games that would be closer or you're within striking distance to a degree. You would hope. And also, you are playing 4 games in 57 hours, starting yesterday at noon until Tuesday night. 57 hours will have passed and you've played 4 games. So even though it was a closer game, it's like, when do I utilize my pieces in the bullpen? We've got a massive series with the Guardians coming up for 2 games on Monday. I want to have everybody available that I can. And then I got to use Zerpa and Smith back-to-back nights. And it makes sense to throw in Garrett Hampson at that point because it doesn't really matter. The game is over. You're not coming back. Let's get out of here. Let's take our trip to Cleveland, and let's try to take care of a 4-game series here. But the last 2 days were frustrating. The score is inflated by a few guys that aren't really part of the answer in the bullpen.
Yeah, and then we just got word not too long ago that Will Smith, too, go into the injured list. So
okay,
Carlos Hernandez back up. So kind of a flurry of roster moves for this bullpen. I mean, as you said, you're playing 4 games in less than 60 hours.
Yes.
I mean, it's going to be quite a grind for this team. And, going to yesterday, I don't really have too much of an issue with Q going to his lowest leverage relievers in a 3-run game. And here's why. David Lesky, who I've interviewed multiple times before. He's been on multiple shows here and stuff. Everybody knows who Lesky is, but he put out a tweet yesterday that I think makes a ton of sense for, the feeling, the optimism that is still around this team. It's that, with what Boston's doing, Tampa Bay's doing, Seattle's doing, at this point the calendar matters, right? That, the Royals lost 2 of 3 to Philly, but gained a game in the wild card race because Boston got swept. Not saying in these next 20 or so games they couldn't lose that 4.5 game lead, but it wouldn't shock me if you look at this series against Cleveland. Yes, it's very important to win the Central, which if your eyes are still on that, then this weekend was a disaster because you took game 1 and got smoked in game 2 and game 3 and had Seth Lugo on the mound for one of those games. But to me, if it's just about making it into the postseason, you do have to be careful about how many high-leverage arms you use in a game where you might come back, right? If the Royals went to Sam Long yesterday, and they did use Chris Bubich, but for a few pitches, and they used Lucas Ursig if it's a 2-run game in the 9th, there's no guarantee you come back in that game. And that's where I'm at this point. It's if I have a lead or the Royals have a lead, I do want Sam Long and Ursig and Schreiber and Bubich to be available. When you're down by 3 runs against a really good lineup and your offense hasn't done much and their bullpen's had your number all series, I'm just trying to squeeze a couple of outs out of Angel Serpa and out of Will Smith. They didn't get it done yesterday, but look, I just don't know if my optimism goes down after yesterday. And here's a big reason as to why. You talked about, winning game 1, losing the next 2, or losing the first 2 and winning game 1. As frustrating as that, game 3, excuse me. As frustrating as that can be, at the end of the day, that might be what gets them into the postseason because somebody like Boston in a 2-week span got swept twice at home to Houston and Arizona because they can't avoid the sweep. If the Royals relinquish this wild card lead or fall way out of it in the Central, it would be that they get swept back-to-back series or they, go on a stretch of losing 7 of 8 games, which they haven't done this year. They've been swept once, and the most they've lost in a row is 4. So you look at that, not only would they have to go past that, their season high in total losses or a streak of losses, Boston has to play their best baseball of the year in this stretch. And that's where I have my doubts because of that bullpen, because of their overall team ERA in the second half, which is, I think, bottom 3 in baseball. So that's why yesterday, I mean, you got your ass kicked. You got your ass kicked on Saturday. But as Lesky pointed out, the calendar matters at this point. There's 32 games to go. If Boston's going to gain ground on you, the Royals have to start slipping right now where they lose 6 in a row or 7 in a row, and Boston has to start winning 6 of 7, and they haven't done that even when the Royals have slipped up a little bit.
The calendar part is such a great point because over the last 2 days, from Friday morning to today, and the Royals lose 2 of 3 to the Phillies, their percentage chance at Fangraphs of making the playoffs went from 75% to 79.8, losing 2 of 3. The Red Sox went from 40% down to 24.2%. Not losing any ground on the Royals. But the games get less and less. You're not gaining ground when the Royals lose 2 of 3. You have to start gaining ground there. Also, the Royals have an 80% chance of making the playoffs because they have 3 avenues to the playoffs. They can win the Central still. They can finish, in 3rd place in the wild card or be 1 game better than Minnesota. It's 3 different ways that they can make the playoffs. The Red Sox, 9 games out of the East. They cannot win the division. They have to be a game better than either Minnesota or Kansas City. That's their avenue to the playoffs, which is why they have a 25% chance because with 30-some-odd games left, they're down by 4.5. They have to play 5 games better than either Kansas City or Minnesota to make the playoffs. The Royals have to play 1 game better than Minnesota or 4 games worse than Boston the rest of the way, and they make the playoffs. That's, I mean, when the games continue to count and the days go by and the Red Sox are not gaining ground, that percentage goes up and up and up because there are fewer and fewer games for them to catch up.
And if you are looking at this I want this team to win the Central, I want them to get a first-round bye, then yes, this weekend did hurt those chances because you were within striking distance, a game back at Cleveland. Now you're 3 games back, and if Cleveland plays well in this series, you're probably buried at winning the Central at that point. So you did miss out on that opportunity. But I also look at yesterday and why when you get your ass kicked like that, I looked at what Boston did yesterday and what Minnesota did. Boston had a 4-0 lead against Arizona, trying to avoid a sweep. You're feeling good. Cutter Crawford was pitching well. They lose 7-5. They gave up 6 unanswered runs, so they let that game slip away. Minnesota, who's tied with Kansas City, imagine if this is the way the game went for the Royals yesterday. They were down to the final out against the Cardinals, and there was second and third. The Twins had a 1-run lead, and Lars Nootbaar hits a little 80-mile-an-hour squibber to the left side where nobody is. And then the Cardinals hold on in the 9th inning and win. So if I asked that point of, with the way things went yesterday, why I didn't, lose too much sleep over just losing 11-2. Yeah, Seth Lugo wasn't good. The offense didn't really hit Colby Allard, was it? Or Kobe Allard? I don't remember what his first name was. But then, Will Smith and Angel Serpa got tagged. Okay, that's what we've become accustomed to at that point. I would stomach that a lot easier than if Lucas Ursig was out there in a rubber match game, 1-run lead, second and third, final pitch of the game, or at least of that at bat, and he just rolls one to the left side. How pissed off we were about all the little infield singles yesterday. Imagine one of them just finding where the shift wasn't, and you lose the game that way. That's why, you wake up today, they're 4.5 back, and if you sweep a doubleheader today, unlikely, but they have the pitching advantages in those games, you're a game back again in Cleveland.
Yeah, and the division cannot be won over the next 4 games for the Royals, but it can be lost.
Yes.
I mean, we can be, Thursday night and saying, well, it's all about the wild card now, because if they get swept, they're 7 games back with, 28 games to play. You're not winning the division. But so you can only lose the division. But go and sweep them, now you're up by 1, and you absolutely are, in this race. Split, you're still in the race. Lose 3 of 4, you're 5 games out, probably out of the race. Win 3 of 4, 2 games out or 1 game out, and, you're right there as well. So there's a lot to be decided over these next 4 games, and should point out, as we've said with Cole Reagans, the stopper, this will be the 9th game that Cole Reagans will go to the mound with the Royals losing at least back-to-back games. The Royals are 6-2 in those games, the previous 8 so far. And the 2 losses that the Royals suffered, he went 5 innings and gave up 1 earned run, and 6 innings and gave up 2 earned runs. So he wasn't exactly getting hit around. It was just the offense did not back them up. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue more Zone next. All right, man, if you're out there and you are dealing with the issues of erectile dysfunction, you want... All right, wrapping up this hour. We'll continue talking some Royals baseball. Josh Kaiser will be our guest coming up at 11 o'clock. Get his thoughts on what we saw over the weekend, his expectations, excitement, feel for this Guardian series. The next in line biggest series of the year for the Royals. They've had a lot of this is the biggest series of the year. This is the next one in line of the biggest series of the year. Cole Reagan's going to the mound today along with Alec Marsh. Will Smith to the IL, and Angel Zerpa option to AAA. That comes a day after Hunter Renfroe was placed on the IR as well. IL, DL, IL, IR. That means if Hunter Renfroe's on the IR, he won't be able to play the first 4 weeks of the NFL season.
Ah.
Well, maybe it's Hunter Renfroe, football player. That's so confusing. Baseball. Josh Kaiser joining us, One Royal Way podcast here in the zone on this Monday. Josh, what is up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Have to talk to Royals baseball and talk about the sky falling actively around us.
That's right. No, I think Sky's still going to make the team. You know what?
Okay, that's great.
He is falling in the depth in the pecking order. You're right about that. Sky is falling in the pecking order with Juju Smith-Schuster being signed. Great call, Josh. Sky is falling here in Kansas City. Maybe with the Royals too. I don't know. How many times has the sky fallen this year? Is this the 7th or 8th time?
Roughly 755 times.
I know.
I think
Yeah, okay.
is where we are on the count.
Sometimes there's 8 within one game that the sky is falling. So you're right about that. Yeah, 755.
Usually those are always gravitating around a Will Smith sighting.
Yeah, that's there's another Will Smith sighting. It's like a Halley's Comet. Unfortunately, it happens too often. Not the Halley's Comet. That would be cooler if it happened more often. But that is interesting, sort of the course of the season, that there are a lot of things that have defined this year for the Royals so far, and certainly a ton of positives. But that is also part of what this season has been the on and off of the bandwagon, or the positives, negatives, sort of just going back and forth and teeter-tottering this year, from those that are the optimists of they're going to get it figured out. Hey, they're still up by 4.5. Those that are the pessimists that are just waiting for the "see, I told you so," that the bottom's going to fall out, which I'm not sure how much fun that would be, to go through a season and just waiting for them to lose so you can say, "See, I told you so." But whatever. That is also part of one of the themes of the season has been the pessimism and optimism sort of battling back and forth throughout the year, while the Royals are still 4.5 games up and making the playoffs with only 30 some odd games left.
Yeah, and I think that's partly due to just the length of the season. 162 games is kind of hard to see and get a good, vibes check on the broader picture, because the picture is so broad. You look at a 17-game schedule in the NFL, and you kind of get a good sense from week to week of what these guys are. Whereas baseball, like, you have to look at week to week, and there are 5 to 7 games where you get a look at a guy where maybe you only saw a relief pitcher 3 times in that week, and 2 of those games were okay, and the other one that got shelled. So it's tough to be able to pinpoint something, but that's just kind of how baseball is. But I'm not complaining too much about this. I am kind of jealous of the people that are just waiting for the floor to drop out, because you're either right or your team is good. So
That's a great point.
It's kind of like a win-win situation for those people, even though not super fun to be around those people either.
I'm glad I was wrong. I'm glad I was wrong.
Right. Yeah. Cautiously optimistic.
I get to watch them in
I'm
the
always
playoffs.
right when things.
Yeah, I get to watch them in the playoffs. I'm glad
not a playoff team.
I'm glad I was wrong. I'm just saying that just didn't feel like that all. I mean, yes, they defied what is real. It's more about the Red Sox sucking than it's always got to be.
They don't deserve to enjoy
be
this.
Something that's true. You don't get to watch the Royals there. Bally's is
They
blacked out.
won 11-2 tonight, but they don't beat good teams. They always beat White Sox. They're like, come on. It's like, just enjoy the 11-2 win and move on, please.
Right. Well, it's also like watching specifically the Royals, and how much we pay attention to every single team and what they're doing night in and night out, what they're doing series to series. And David Lesky put this out yesterday. Said in response to somebody talking about that the Royals play a playoff team and they lose. So there you go. They're playing playoff teams. They lose 2 of 3. And he said the records against current playoff teams: Royals are 19-25, Cleveland is 20-26, and Minnesota is 20-30. So kind of sounds like the Royals against playoff teams are doing what the other 2 teams in their division that they are doing. Odds are you're going to be losing and probably be below 500 against playoff teams if you are a fringe playoff team, which is what the Royals are. If the Royals were the favorites to win the World Series in the position they are right now, I could understand a lot of the frustration of, okay, yeah, but look what they're doing. If they make the playoffs, what's the point? They're just going to make the playoffs and lose, and they're supposed to win the World Series. Right. This was maybe they can compete for a playoff spot, and they're doing essentially against playoff teams what the Guardians and the Twins are doing, and the better than what the Red Sox are doing because they're 4.5 games up at that point. Like, I think that's where sometimes the forest is lost for the trees because we focus and it's such a micro view as opposed to we were hoping that this team would just compete for a playoff spot. Now it's about holding on, right, Josh? Holding on. You've got 32 games left. You got a 4.5 game lead. There's a reason that Fangraphs has now moved you up in the last 3 days while losing 2 of 3 from 75% to essentially 80% to make the playoffs because the games are getting fewer and fewer and fewer. You've got 32 left, and you've got to hold off 4.5 game lead over the Red Sox or finish 1 game better than Minnesota or 4 games better than, or actually just 3 games better than Cleveland the rest of the way, because at that point you would hold the season tiebreaker over them to win the division. So there are many avenues for this Royals team to make the playoffs, and this is the next big series. But, I mean, perspective being there of what we thought this team would be this year versus where they are right now, I don't know how there's a whole lot of negativity around this team unless it's just, well, they're not going to make the World Series, so therefore it doesn't matter. Okay, that's fine. I don't remember thinking that in 2013 and 14.
Yes, 100%. At this time of year, I remember going to a game in 2014, and the stadium's like, maybe a quarter to a third full, and being like, man, we're still in this. Like, it's still, like, football season was starting up, and you're like, it's still baseball season. Let's go. And you go back to, like, I don't know, June was probably the latest that I saw this, where our expectations were just still around, like, stay above 500, and we'll be pumped about this from a lot of the fan base. And now we're like 6-7 weeks removed from that, and now we're just hoping for not an epic collapse where we're 80% favored to make the postseason and we just don't. That would be heartbreaking at this point and would put a damper on a great year for this team. And I don't think that's going to happen, but obviously the odds are in their favor. But that's kind of where we are perspective-wise on where this, forest trees discussion absolutely is. And you get into the postseason, and weird things happen all the time. Arizona went on a run last year as a wild card team against some absolute powerhouses in that National League side.
Right.
So it can absolutely happen. You get into the postseason, and then weird things happen, and that is on top of when you look at like team OPS and team ERA from both the pitching staff and the rotation. Every team that's currently slated to make the postseason has a big flaw, whether it be the lineup or whether it be the starting rotation or whether it be the bullpen. Even the New York Yankees and the Dodgers, they look pretty good across the board in those categories. But then you look a little bit deeper in the peripherals, and you see their staffs and their bullpens are both overachieving quite a bit with FIP. So you get in, you can beat anybody at any given time. And that's what you're really rooting for as Royals fans at this point. You're not really going into the postseason expecting them to win the World Series, but being cautiously optimistic that anything could happen in October. So I think that's the perspective that we need to have moving forward as Royals fans. But I'm also not here to gatekeep anybody's fandom. I just want to make sure that we're all enjoying this ride as it's happening.
Well, I just think that, I told you this team isn't good enough to make the playoffs. When through 130 games, they've proven that they're good enough to make the playoffs. They're 4.5 games
100%.
up. They're 4.5 games up. But we'll see. They still have to go and play the games. They still have to take care of the Red Sox. Maybe they don't make the playoffs. Hopefully that's not the case because, as we've talked about, the schedule is really tough. Is there a concern, or what is that? I think there has to be, but what is the concern level for you from what we've seen from Seth Lugo in his last 9 starts, a 5.3 ERA, 1.3 WHIP? The Royals are 3-6 in those last 9 starts for him. Where's the concern level from what we're seeing with Seth Lugo, who obviously has gone well past career high in innings and is only going to continue tacking more and more on?
Concern level, I don't know. It's part of me wonders if they're all kind of collectively taking a bit off to kind of preserve their postseason stuff. They're kind of saving the best stuff for that run. At the same time, like a game like yesterday would have been a lot better. There was a lot of seeing eye singles and weird doinker doubles. I mean, I think his average exit velocity as a whole yesterday was like 87 miles an hour, which I will still take that every day of the week. So I'm not super worried about Seth Lugo. Obviously, there's the career innings cap and all that stuff. We're going to talk about arm fatigue and his age and all that stuff. So I think, again, we're all just waiting for the four to drop out with Seth Lugo. But at the same time, like, we're down the final stretch, and we're kind of at the point where I kind of want him to save anything that he can keep off film, break some tendencies and break some trends. We're kind of in that mode at this point with their potential setting in the playoff standings. So I'm okay. I'm not super concerned about it, and we'll just see where it takes us at the end of the year.
One of the things that I think we've been tracking and wondering as the season has gone on when it comes to his innings pitched is what does he look like with his average velocity, four seam, the sinker, slider, change, slurve, curve, all of his different pitches. Like, where is he at in comparison to what he was early in the season? Is his velocity dropping? He's almost 30 innings already past his career high. So is he going through the arm fatigue? Is it a little bit of a dead arm that he's going to have to battle through? And so I just looked at a cluster of games, the last 9 games since he's been struggling, and then the first 6 games of the season. And I wanted to see what the average, miles per hour was on the and there's some RPM, there's spin rate, there's other things you can look at. But I was just like, if people are saying, his velocity is down. Okay. So the first 6 games to his last 9, his four-seam fastball is down 0.2 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. That's pretty negligible. His sinker, his first 6 averaged 92.3. It's 91.8. So it's 0.5. It's a half a mile an hour. I don't think you're going to see much of a difference with that. What I found to be interesting, though, is that his slider, change, slurve, and curve are all being thrown faster than what they were in his first 6. There is more velocity to his breaking pitches than there was in his first 6 games, which, by the way, then lessens the separation between the four-seam and the sinker to the slider, the change, the slurve, the curve. Between the sinker and the slurve, there's 1.4 miles an hour less of a difference in these last 9 games than there was the first 6. The curve, it's 1.1. The change, it's 1.15. And between his four-seam / sinker to the slider, it's closer by 1.6 miles an hour. That's what I found to be interesting, is that we're talking about, well, is his velocity down? Well, no, his velocity isn't down. It's up. With his slider, change, slurve, and curve, he's throwing them faster, while his four-seam and sinker are the same miles an hour. So you don't have that separation. That graphic when they show the balls coming in from the side up to home plate and they show the four-seam is here and the changeup is back there. It's now more confined. It's now closer than what it was. I don't know if there's anything to that. Maybe that's the arm fatigue of if there's less break, then it's coming in faster with the slider or the change or the slurve, the curve, whatever. I'm not sure what that is, but that's the only difference. The fastball, the four-seam sinker is pretty negligible. The other ones are down miles an hour, a little bit more, and that difference is now shrunk.
And if there was a pitcher in the majors that I wouldn't trust the data on as far as velo goes, it would be Seth Lugo. And it's because he has, according to Savant, 8 to 9 pitches, but if you ask him, it's more like 12. So especially within that breaking ball and off-speed offerings, it's more of a range, a way wider range on what you can actually classify. There's a ton of overlap, and I think that's the beauty of Seth Lugo is the fact that you think you're going to square him up because you got a good eye on his slider. Well, now it's actually a cutter because it's a little bit faster, but it's also taken off a little bit. So maybe it's more of a sweeper type of thing. It's kind of why Seth Lugo is known as the surgeon on that team, because he's incredibly intelligent. He can locate and precisely locate. And I think that's been my biggest issue with him thus far recently. I think his locations are a little bit off, which is where I'm mostly concerned with. He does have a huge repertoire, and he knows how to locate it and command it, and he can do whatever he wants to with your head while you're in that box as a batter. So that's, I think, where his appeal comes from. His velo is never going to be like his calling card, but the locating and the command seems to be a little bit shakier as of late. and that's why I'm majorly concerned with him. But it's definitely not the velo.
Visiting with Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. All right, Alec Marsh is going to go tonight. He goes down to Omaha, and in the 4 outings that he's pitched for Omaha, 3 innings, 4 innings, and then his most recent one on the 20th was 5 innings. What do you think is the plan with Alec Marsh? Is the plan to turn him into a long reliever and start to lower the innings and the pitch count to be more max velocity in fewer pitches, or is it to have him ready to go if they need somebody to come in and start if somebody were to go down? Since he's starting today, they didn't want to just move everybody up one day. Makes sense, obviously. So you throw Alec Marsh today as the extra pitcher, but you're talking about 9 innings that he's thrown in the last 11 days. What do you think the plan is of what are they trying to sort of be a little bit pregnant here? Like, well, we want him to be a middle reliever or a guy that can come in the 7th inning, but we also want him to be available in case somebody goes down?
I think that's exactly what it is. I think we're going to see pretty much this dance until September 1st, when I think he'll get the call, and they'll probably still use him in a 1 to 3 innings per appearance type of thing. I could totally see that in preparation to bolster that bullpen for the postseason at that point. And they're kind of the same with Michael Lorenzen. I think he's going to be the main starter. He's going to get the usual 5 innings or so. But I could see them kind of tailing him off a little bit towards the postseason too, maybe mix and match in those 2, and then seeing what Daniel Lynch could be at that point, because he's still stretched out as a starter as well. And if you're mix and matching all 3 of those guys at any given moment, you can cover a lot of innings with them. So I really like that move. It shows a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of savviness, both on JJ's part and Q's part, about how to bolster a weak bullpen, which is really the weakness of this team. So that's something that you can absolutely bolster and use creatively to have a functional and dependable bullpen in October. So I think that's what we're really going to see. I think we're going to see some weird usage, but I'm really interested in seeing how it goes.
Would you like Matt Quatrero to choose a leadoff hitter and stay with it, good, bad, and indifferent, or do you like the sort of floating leadoff hitters depending on the day, the pitching matchup, maybe the way they're swinging the bat? It's been Garcia the last 2. It was Massey a couple of days ago. It's Massey today for Game 1. Would you like to see him just pick one and stay with it, or you're okay with the matchup-driven sort of game by game?
I'm fine with the matchup-driven. It's in the end, kind of depending on what the off-season handles, I could totally see a reality next year where Michael Garcia and Michael Massey are the second base platoon guys, and they're kind of in that rotating DH spot anyways. I could totally see that being the case. And I do trust Quatrero to ride the hot hand like a RBBC in the NFL, riding the hot hand running back, guy who's seeing the ball well, playing good defense. And it's just unfortunate that, especially here lately, there's been bad defensive plays from both those guys. So it's hard to say which one is hot, but they've both had big hits down the stretch too. So in the interest of keeping Massey healthy, in the interest of keeping Michael Garcia in the lineup and on this roster to hopefully blossom into his potential, I could totally see them both being in the mix as a platoon partner at second base next year. But as far as the rest of the season goes this year, I'm just fine Quatrero in the matchups, right in the hot hand, and putting one of those guys at the top of the lineup regardless of what's going on.
Yeah, it's better than Frazier. We've seen Frazier for an extended period of time, like over 2 weeks. Like, oh, Frazier's starting again today. Oh, hey, look, Frazier's starting and leading off. Oh, look, he's leading off today. That's cool. He's leading off today. Although, he almost got one yesterday. I mean, he put a charge into it, drove it to the wall, and it was like, man, with the wind and the heat, I thought that thing was thought it was going to go. I thought it was going to keep flying, but it did not. It did not happen. All right, so let's talk about this series against Cleveland. This is a Royals team that has been so good with runners in scoring position, and it's been one of those sort of discussions of like, all right, let's look at their batting average overall compared to what's going on in the league. Now let's look at the runners in scoring position batting average compared to what's going on in the league. Well, one of these things is not like the other. So that's been part of the waiting for the other shoe to drop. Well, what happens when they don't come through with runners in scoring position? okay, it looks like it did this weekend. They were 1 of 18 with runners in scoring position this weekend. They had 3 doubles and 3 home runs yesterday, and they scored 3 runs. That doesn't seem to be those things sort of adding up. Is this, just one of those games? Because I think earlier in the season, Josh, we might have been asking, okay, when's water going to find its level? When do they regress to the mean? And I don't know, with 30 games left, you can be like, no, they're definitely regressing to the mean now because they had back-to-back games against the Phillies where they didn't come through with runners in scoring position, when on Friday night they did, and Thursday and Wednesday and et cetera throughout this season. So couple games, those things happen. If we went back and looked through the season, there's probably a couple of game stretch where they went, 1 of 15, 16 with runners in scoring position, or a bigger concern, I guess.
Yeah, we're definitely over the hump to call this a short or small sample size and regression to the mean. It just we're kind of getting to the point where this is the identity, and a lot of those times, a lot of those kind of teams like that do get that special label of just clutchness and just doing special things at the right times. And that really might just be 2 or 3 guys that just get in the right situation at the exact right time. Vinny Pasquantino, Hunter Renfroe, I'm looking at both of you guys. But you talked about this last weekend and how that looks and the inconsistencies. What happens to those 3 doubles and 3 home runs if there was anybody on base for them? How many runs do they score in those situations where they weren't runners in scoring position, and they still did as good as you could possibly do? So it's kind of a double-edged sword. This team is not built to really get on base that much, but the clutchness that this team has is their identity. That's who they are, and that's fine by me. That's teams can obviously win that way, but it is very inconsistent and oftentimes very frustrating when you go up against a guy like Colby Allard, who cannot stay on a major league roster but still finds a way to get outs on a consistent basis against this team. So it's a very frustrating way to have an identity, but it is an identity nonetheless.
So they're going with an opener today to start the game. Are the Guardians? So it's opener Sandlin against Cole Reagans. And then Alec Marsh versus Logan Allen coming up tonight. Outside of Sandlin and being an opener for a third of an inning, I don't know, maybe 2, but I don't think he's thrown that many innings this year in an outing. So probably an inning. Outside of him, the other 3 starters for the Guardians have a 5.5, a 5.1, and then Bybee is a 3.46 going up against Waka. The way the pitching matchup sets up with Reagans going up against an opener, and by the way, as I've talked about the stopper, Reagans the stopper, this is they've gone 8 games where he's taken the mound with at least back-to-back losses for the Royals. The Royals are 6-2 in those 8 games, so he has been the stopper. What do you think of the pitching matchups over these next 4 games and the next biggest series of the season for the Royals?
Yeah, definitely in the Royals favor in that. So, it was awful nice of Cleveland to go ahead and wave the white flag in that first game and send out a reliever rather than yeah, it's going to bite me if it's not the truth. But sending out Sandlin, who's struggled as a reliever, thinking that maybe he'll have some success as the opener. Oh, by the way, you're going to go up against Cole Reagans on the other side. So good luck. Have fun. Let's see what you got. But definitely that situation is in favor of the Royals. The Logan Allen situation, he's another pitcher that has absolutely struggled, a guy that can absolutely be gotten. So I think that is also, even if is it Lorenzen? No, that's Marsh. That's Marsh on the other side. So even
Lorenzen's tomorrow.
I could totally see them doing a Marsh and then piggybacking with Lynch and both of them getting like 3 to 4 innings apiece. Totally see that being a thing. And if that's the case, that would be a pretty electric, combination, I think, at that point. But we'll see how that goes. But I kind of went into the series hoping that by the time they got to Waka and Bybee, that we're going for a 3 out of 4 or at least, a split, because that's how it should line up. And that if we come back to Kansas City against Cleveland next week with that split in hand, I got to feel good about maintaining that tiebreaker against Cleveland. So I think that's what should happen. I'm hoping today, by the end of the day, we're already talking about a split series, and then going to New York to Houston to try to take them down. But I think the pitching matchup, especially, is definitely in the Royals' favor in this round.
Yeah, the first three guys they go up again, and this is what's really interesting for Cleveland with an opener today is, we know their bullpen has been taxed already, and
Yep,
Bibee going on
and not good.
yes, right. They've struggled as of late, and I think when you start to accumulate those arms, but their starting staff, they're begging for guys to go past 5 innings, and the first three guys they're going to be throwing out there, an opener today, so an inning. And then you've got Logan Allen, who has gone past or pitched 5 innings at least one time in the last 5 starts for him. And then Gavin Williams, who has gone past 5 innings one time in the last 5 starts for him. So it's an interesting strategy to throw an opener there at the beginning of a doubleheader when the next 3 games you've got guys going to the mound who don't get through 5 innings. And so it's a real opportunity for the Royals over these next 3, 2 today and then tomorrow, to get into the Guardians bullpen and tax them early because they've got guys going to the mound who have not stayed in the game long. That's the offense's job, is to continue that trend for Gavin Williams and Logan Allen, and obviously Nick Sandlin today. That's the job of the offense, is to make sure you make them pay for having their issues with their starting staff.
Yep, 100%. And I think Gavin Williams is kind of a mixed bag, because if I recall correctly, I think he's had 2 starts against Kansas City this year, and they've both been pretty good. I think he's only given up 2 earned runs in about 12 innings or so. So I think that he does pitch against the Royals pretty well, but you're absolutely right. It's an opportunity to take on and take full advantage of a pitching matchup that should be in your favor in a massive series. I mean, this is exactly how you want it set up, but we've said that before, and the Royals had not taken advantage of it. So that was probably my biggest takeaway coming out of the series this week against the Phillies, was the pressure is starting to mount, and I think that, they've talked about it in the clubhouse, that they know the pressure is there, but they're just concentrating on one game at a time. Well, we saw a lot of mental mishaps this weekend. We saw some bad pitching mistakes. We saw some bad hitting mistakes, running, defense, all of it. There were too many toot blands, and I don't want this identity to go from a clutch team to a team that can't handle the pressure once they get down the stretch. So if we're going to start, going against that narrative and fighting back and proving who you are as a team, it's got to start today when the pitching matchup is in your favor.
Yep, absolutely. Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Josh, appreciate the time as always, brother. Enjoy the baseball, and we will talk next week at some time. We'll figure out a day to have you on. Well, actually, you know what? I think you may be on Monday. We'll figure it out. But we'll talk soon, man, as always. Appreciate it, brother.
Yep. Always enjoy it, boys.
Absolutely. There's Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Sterling's going to be in on Monday, so I was thinking, well, is this on Monday? Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, but Sterling, you got the range, you got the steering wheel, you've got the con.
I get to talk to Kaiser on Monday.
Yay!
And
You're going to labor through that game, aren't you? You're going to labor through the day.
It'll be like the whole, you know how they want to have starters go 6 innings?
Right.
Like they're just going to force them. That'll be me. Like I'm getting shelled, but like he's just like, he's got to finish. He's got to wear it. He's going to wear it.
He's got to wear this one. Sorry.
It's Vin Mazzaro right now. It's Vin. That's a good pull right there. Vin Mazzaro right now. He's
hell of
just
a pull, by the way. Yeah, I believe we may have Super Bowl after that, coming up on a little Labor Day. We'll see next week. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone right after this. You know, we talked about sometimes it's about when you play a team instead of which team you're playing, depending on how that team is playing in that time. And this doubleheader today is the makeup from a rainout in early June. And the Royals had lost game one of that series, and then they got a rainout on a Wednesday. They ended up winning on a Thursday, but they lost game one on a Tuesday to the Guardians. The Royals, going into that Wednesday day that was rained out, were 2-7 in their previous 9 games. The Guardians were 16-4 heading into that day. Now the Royals ended up winning that Thursday, so they split that 2-game set.
Sure.
Then we know what happened later on. They take 3 of 4. But right now, the Guardians, while beating Texas on Saturday and Sunday, they are 6-3. Yeah, 6-3 in their last 9 games because they lost 3 of 4 to Milwaukee. They lost 2 of 3 to the Yankees. And then they won 2 of 3 to Texas. So that's 3 losses to Milwaukee, 2 losses to the Yankees, 1 loss to Texas, and then mix in a few wins. So, yeah, they're 3-6 in their last 9 games heading into this series with the Royals. Royals lose back-to-back games against the Phillies. We're playing good baseball until that. They did not play good baseball over the weekend. So we'll see what they can do. But this is, I would say, I'd rather the Royals be facing the Guardians today in a doubleheader than have played that game early June on that Wednesday. Where now, because that was early June, it was, we were getting into the season. We were seeing how good teams were. The Guardians had one of the best bullpens in baseball, and they had guys they were just going to.
David Fry was all-star.
That's right.
Sorry, all-star David Fry
right.
was absolutely raking.
So when we talk about like the bullpen for Cleveland and getting into the bullpen early for the Royals, I couldn't believe this stat. Out of the top 16, I'll ask Dylan this because I don't think Dylan heard this stat. I told you in the break, so I'll ask Dylan to throw a dart. Out of the top 16 players in all of baseball in the number of appearances this year, bullpen arms number of appearances this year, top 16 players in all of baseball, how many play for the Guardians?
Oh, wow.
Top 16 in all of baseball.
In the bullpen?
How many play for the – yeah, because the appearances are going to be just bullpen guys. Top 16, 59 appearances, or well, actually 14. So it's really the top 14, tied for 14 because 16 is – but 59 appearances. Yeah, so top 16, whatever. 16, 14, 16, they're tied there. But
I'll go with like a little under half with 6. Like
6?
Yeah.
It's close. I couldn't believe it.
Number is what I was
5 of the 16 players for the most appearances in all of baseball this year out of the bullpen pitch for the Guardians. And that's not going to change over the next 32 games. Because, again, as I talked about, going in this series, they've got an opener going today. Then they've got Logan Allen, who's pitched out of the 5th inning once in his last 5 starts. Then they've got Gavin Williams, who's pitched out of the 5th inning once in his last 4 starts. Like, you are throwing guys out there like the Guardians, and if you watch or Twitter and Guardian fans and all that stuff, like they are begging for pitchers to just hand the ball to the bullpen for all they need is a 7th, 8th, 9th. Can you just give the ball to the bullpen where all they need is 3 innings to get through instead of sometimes it's half the game. Like today it's going to be 9 innings or maybe more, who knows. But today it's going to be 9 innings that their bullpen's going to go out there and pitch. We'll see what it is tonight, how many innings, and tomorrow and the next day. It's a massive opportunity for the Royals and the offense to jump on these pitchers early to then have to go earlier and earlier or make a decision, do we wave the white flag if you're Cleveland in this game? That would be nice if that happens a couple of times.
My bet says they're going to wave the white flag. I have
Yeah.
Royals winning by 2 or more runs this game. So
and just wave the white flag.
Yes, I'm hoping the Royals get it done today. But their bullpen is just their pitching staff in totality is fascinating because we've been told, how great their pitching staff is and their bullpen. You're right, they've been a little bit struggling as of late, the bullpen. But you look at Emmanuel Clase, he's got a .6 ERA.
He's been amazing.
.6 in 60 and a thirds innings. I mean, we're talking Wade Davis numbers right there.
He's given up 4 earned runs all season in 60 innings.
How many were against the Royals, too, by the way? It feels like 3 were against the Royals. Yeah.
He's had to dance around the Royals. You're right about that. That's a great point.
But you look at their starting pitching, they have 3 guys who have pitched more than 100 innings. Beebe with 138, Ben Lively with 126. Carlos Carrasco with a 5.64 ERA just crosses the threshold with 103.2. The Royals have 5 pitchers who have thrown more than 100 innings. And 4 of them have thrown 133 or more.
I was going to say Lugo's at 167 or something like
172.
That. Like I said, 172. I discounted his 5
Reagans
innings.
is 142,
Yeah.
Singer 146, Walker 133, who's missed some starts. And then Marsh is still over 101 innings.
And he's going tonight.
And so Cleveland's bullpen is taxed. They've started to show some cracks in the foundation. Do they have great bullpen arms? Oh, yeah, they do. But it's getting taxing on those guys, and you're right, it's not going to ease up for them, especially, again, with an opener tonight. If there was a team that might start to crumble down the stretch, I think it's very easy to point to Cleveland, and not because they're not a good team, but just because of the damn wear and tear on these arms over the course of a season. This seems unsustainable.
Yeah. I got Clase and Duran mixed up because the Royals had been getting after Duran constantly. Clase has gone 2 innings and given up one base runner against the Royals this year. But I'm thinking Duran in my mind of they were getting at. But, yeah, Clase's come out
in the
twice.
past, though, they've still gotten to Clase a little bit.
Probably, yeah.
But what's fascinating with Clase is
this year it's 2 innings, no earned runs, no hits, 1 walk, 3 Ks against the Royals.
for a guy that throws a 102-mile-an-hour cutter, he only has 52 strikeouts in those 60 innings. It's pretty interesting how the strikeout numbers. I mean, Scott Barlow is striking out well more than Clase. I find that a little fascinating. I wouldn't have guessed that.
He pitched yesterday against the Rangers, 1 inning, and had 3 strikeouts in that 1 inning. So that's inflating, inflating the numbers a little bit. But yeah, struck out the side there and got the save on 12 pitches. So he would be available for one of the games today, or maybe both. Who knows? I mean, he's been kind of a rubber arm.
We saw MacArthur do that earlier this year when he was actually going good at that point.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and MLB Network released over the weekend their latest docuseries of one of the greats. Last year they had Brett that they released. It was the documentary on MLB Network about George Brett. This one is called One of a Kind, and it's about Greg Maddux. We'll take a timeout, and we'll come back, and we'll hear a couple of different stories, anecdotes from his teammates that show just the brilliance, the greatness, and why he's the professor, Greg Maddux. And they don't sound like they're just legends, and then when the legend becomes fact, print the legend. You've got multiple people weighing in on the same stories. So we'll take a timeout. We'll hear 2 of those stories that are from One of a Kind with Greg Maddux coming up next. We'll also hear from some players with the Kansas City Chiefs about 12:30 or so. MLB Network debuted One of a Kind, the Greg Maddux documentary. It's a docuseries that they have at least one a year. Last year they had Brett, about George Brett. And these are two different stories that came from the series or the documentary about the brilliance of Greg Maddux. Let's play clip number 4 first. Let's play the Eddie Perez one about Greg Maddux. This is Eddie Perez, his main catcher. And this is back when they were playing the Houston Astros in the regular season. And Jeff Bagwell was at the plate, and Eddie Perez telling the story about when, Greg Maddux became sort of this otherworldly figure of a pitcher in his mind.
We were regular season, and we were winning like 8-0. It was easy game in the 8th inning. And he told me, don't throw anything inside on Bagwell. Call everything outside. And I said, okay. I think it was somebody odd. And he wants to go inside. And I, okay, it's your game. So I went inside, called inside, and Bagwell hit like 1,000-mile.
Long, oh boy, Bagwell way back.
And I was mad, and I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, they got a good team. We got a good team. We're going to play them in the playoff. He's going to wait for that pitch. 3 months later, we're in the playoff, bases loaded in the 7th. We threw 3 straight changes and struck him out. And I was walking to the dugout. He goes, hey! And I look at him. He said, you remember? 3 months ago, 2 months ago? And I said, no, I don't. He was looking for that pitch, the homer that he hit. And I was like, this guy. It's how smart he was.
That's unbelievable. I'm going to throw him something, a heater inside, even though away is how you get him out. And Eddie Perez is like, I was mad. You told me only call pitches on the outside, and now you want to throw something inside. And he hits it for a 2-run home run. And then he sees him in the playoffs, bases loaded, and he throws him 3 changeups away. And he swings at all of them and strikes him out. Here is Chipper Jones telling the story about an at-bat against Luis Gonzalez.
They don't call him the professor for nothing.
It was a regular season game.
And now here's Gonzalez. He's got 2 runners on here.
And Bobby sent Leo out to tell Maddux that he wanted to walk Gonzalez. Luis Gonzalez hit Maddux pretty good. Doggy's like, nope, not going to do it.
He goes, what? He goes, give me 2 pitches, and I think I can pop him up to third base.
He goes, I'm going to throw him a changeup down and away, first pitch, then I'm going to throw him a cutter, middle in, and he's going to hit a pop-up to Chipper, and we're going to get out of this inning. Leo just kind of looks at him, and he looks at the rest of us, and he goes, okay. And he turns around, and he walks back to the dugout. And, I mean, you can hear Bobby's just, he's pissed, So, sure enough, he throws him changeup down and away, ball 1, cutter in.
Got under this one a little bit, pops it down the left field line.
And I'm standing underneath the pop-up, just thinking, you have got to be kidding me. Caught it, inning over.
Bobby and I looked at each other and went, unbelievable.
Leo Mazzoni and Bobby Cox. Bobby Cox was pissed, told him to walk him. Mazzoni comes back and says, well, he wants to throw him a couple of pitches. And Bobby Cox was mad. And they show the video of Chipper Jones catching the ball. And as soon as he catches, he just looks over at Greg Maddux like, it's amazing. Like, it's not even, it can't be made up, because in the moment you see Chipper Jones' reaction, and you probably may wonder at the time, like, maybe it didn't mean anything to you. You're like, oh, I wonder what that meant, that looked over there sort of shaking his head. And now we know that Leo Mazzoni walks out there and says, give Luis Gonzalez 4. Walk him. Bobby Cox wants you to walk him. No, give me 2 pitches. Throw him a changeup away and then a cutter inside, and I'm going to get him to pop out to Chipper Jones.
Just need 2.
It's a great example of the electricity of accuracy that kind of has been lost in the velocity of the way that pitching has gone now. But the stories are so awesome. I'm glad that you put these in here. These are awesome.
Dude,
I didn't see this. I didn't know it was coming out, so I'm definitely watching it now.
Came out Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember when it came out. I think it came out yesterday, maybe the 25th. Yeah, actually, it was yesterday. And then last night they followed that up with one of his 14 strikeout performances in his game, but in his career. But yeah, it was just hearing some of those stories are unbelievable. It's like when you hear the stories of what they used to talk about, like whether Jordan or Magic or Larry Bird, when Larry Bird was like, I'm going to score 30 against you and I'm only going to shoot left-handed.
Yeah.
And then he scores 30 that night, only taking left-handed shots, hook shots and left-handed layups and, just pulling up left-handed in the runner in the lane, left-handed, just because I wanted to. And he said he was going to do it and then did it. And Craig Maddox is like, I'm going to throw a cookie to Bagwell inside. We're up 8-0 because we may see him in the playoffs and he's going to be remembering that pitch I threw to him, knowing that I threw that, so he's going to be waiting for that pitch, and I'm not going to throw it to him, and he's going to strike out. But I'm going to sort of set him up at a certain time. Okay, bases loaded, let's get out of this thing against Jeff Bagwell. And I'm going to throw 2 pitches to Gonzalez, and I'm going to get him to pop out to Chipper Jones. Like, it's just absurd, man.
His entire career is absurd. It's just a testament to, obviously, success, but also longevity. I mean, you just look at some of the numbers and the amount of innings he pitched. We're not talking about like the 60s or 70s. Mm-hmm. You're talking 90s and then into the 2000s, and you're looking at the amount of innings he pitched, and it's just 263, 268, 267. All, by the way, those are all 3 back-to-back-to-back. With a 2.18 ERA, 2.36, follow that up with a 1.56 ERA, 1.63 ERA. And like, it's just absurd. He won, 4 straight Cy Youngs from 92 to 95.
Yeah.
The final year with the Cubs, then 3 straight with Atlanta. 4 straight Cy Youngs won,
and I think
by Greg Maddux.
3 other years he finished in the top 3 of the Cy Young bidding.
Yes, he did.
Did he?
Yep.
Did he finish second 2 or 3 times of those?
He finished third twice,
okay.
Second once, fourth once, fifth once.
Okay. Well, and throwing the top 5 there as well. But I mean, dude was. I mean, it's unbelievable what he was able to do, and just like you talk about, just picking people apart, just scalpel the professor, right, and claiming bats left and right.
Because that's more frustrating as a hitter when you're striking out against 89, 90, than striking out against 100 or 98. You can kind of convince yourself that it was a good battle, but I think John Smoltz, so many years ago, but it was when Hendricks was pitching for the Cubs, and he said it's a comfortable 0 for 4, where you feel like you're hitting the ball all over the place, hitting it hard, 0 for 4.
Yeah, as opposed to Randy Johnson was an uncomfortable 0 for 4.
Boom.
You're like, I don't even want to step in
Ask
there.
John Kruk.
Kruk, exactly.
Yeah.
Turn the helmet back, whatever he did.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. And by the way, and I know it's different now than it was then, but in those 4 years when he won the 4 straight Cy Youngs, 37 complete games in that time.
Again, though, we're talking 90s and early 2000s. We're not talking 60s, 70s.
It's just a different time, but it's unbelievable. But I love hearing those stories when they go back and actually can tell you what was going on at the time without having to, release any information that was not public. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. Heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs coming up a half hour from now. We'll see who's going to be at the podium for the Chiefs. We'll find out. At Boulevard over the weekend was Creed Humphrey, who was working with Boulevard in their tailgate event. And Creed was asked about and weighed in here for about a minute or so about his new contract that is official, signed, ink to paper, and released the video with the Chiefs about how he's excited to get this thing rolling yet again. But here's Creed Humphrey at the Boulevard event over the weekend.
Yeah, it feels great. It's something that we were wanting to get done before the season started, and now we can focus on the season and really just focus up on getting better and getting ready for the three-peat. So that's what we're going towards now. But I'm just really excited for the contract, really pumped about it. Extremely excited I get to stay in Kansas City for 4 more years. So I'm definitely blessed.
You talk about focusing on things. Let's be real. It's kind of hard to focus on everybody's talking three-peat, already into the 2 and everything else. How do you personally do that, as well as how are you as a team making sure that you focus on the main thing?
Yeah, I think for us it's just looking at ourselves in the mirror every day and seeing what we can do to improve. It's a new team, it's a new year, so we have a lot of things that we need to fix and improve on throughout the season. So that's kind of our focus, is taking it day by day and getting better every day.
So there you go, Creed Humphrey, excited to be in Kansas City 4 more years.
4 more years. 4 more years.
Creed Humphrey also running for president. Interesting.
Not yet.
Well,
Not
I
old
guess.
enough.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's.
I would vote for Creed Humphrey.
That's right. There's an age restriction of how young you are. Only.
There's no cap on the
No.
other side? Okay.
No, it's no cap. It's not a lie.
Right, that
It's
makes
not a lie,
sense.
Dylan. It's
Yes,
no cap.
No cap.
Yeah.
Not a lie.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Creed Humphrey, the best center in the NFL. No cap. And paid like a guard now. We'll see what this means for Trey Smith. We'll see what it means for Nick Bolton. We talked about that last week, about the implications now of signing this contract for Creed Humphrey and getting the $18 million per year and being a part of the Chiefs for a while. And the Chiefs going and making Creed Humphrey the first center that they invested in, just as Trent McDuffie was the first cornerback they invested in. And whether it's a philosophical way of going about it or if it's just circumstantial, certainly seemed to be circumstantial with the cornerback spot when Brett Veach was like, well, when we haven't spent money on a cornerback, well, go through each individual thing, like draft picks. Well, someone wasn't there to draft, or it didn't make sense financially. And then when it did make sense, they traded up and got Trent McDuffie. And, well, yeah, they didn't sign Rodney Hudson. Okay, so they draft Mitch Morse. That makes sense. They don't re-sign Mitch Morse. Well, he had some injuries and concussions, and that scared him off. And I think if Mitch Morse was the model of health, I think he would have signed a contract extension with the Kansas City Chiefs.
I mean, in fairness, it was also a different regime, right? It was slightly.
No, I mean, Dorsey as opposed to
Dorsey
yeah,
compared,
right.
but the last one they paid was Casey Wigman. I was trying to think of the last center that really went and stayed a long time. It was Wigman he was there in 2001 to 2011.
That's crazy.
Because that would have been almost Rodney Hudson, almost directly following, close to it.
Yeah.
But you're right. But also even with him, and then you get into Mitch Morse. Mitch Morse was close. Rodney Hudson was very, very good. But Creed Humphrey's elite. Right? Like, Creed Humphrey is an elite. Mitch Morse is a one-time Pro Bowler. Injuries, of course, played a part, but he was a one-time Pro Bowler, and that was in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Rodney Hudson, how many was he in Kansas City? Was he any?
I think
he
my
had
recollection. Maybe he made one. He made
none in Kansas City.
Did he make any with the Raiders?
He had 3 with the Raiders.
Yeah.
So my point is, when the contract time is up, when it's time to extend, you're obviously going on upside.
Mm-hmm.
Do you pay the zero-time Pro Bowlers top-end dollar to play center position, or do you play the 2-time and 3-year Pro Bowler who's been an All-Pro, who's noted for being the best center in the NFL now that we have more analysis and underlying numbers with PFF and all that stuff as well? You pay that guy. You pay Creed Humphrey. I get that. The Mitch Morses and the Rodney Hudsons, you say, well, they're really good. They're not elite. So we're not going to pay them elite money, especially at a position that they think they could fill with another damn good player.
Yeah. Let's hear from L'Jarius Sneed on the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark. Then we'll get into our conversation about Juju Smith-Schuster. But here is L'Jarius Sneed weighing in on one of the biggest plays that was made in his career against the Baltimore Ravens. Zay Flowers heading to the end zone. L'Jarius Sneed meeting him at the goal line, jarring the ball loose. Here's L'Jarius Sneed weighing in on that series of plays because Zay Flowers had that big play to get them down the field and into that position earlier in the drive. But here's L'Jarius Sneed with Ryan Clark on the Pivot podcast talking about that game against Baltimore and that play in the end zone.
Zay catches the crosser, chase him, punch the ball out on the goal line. To me, without that play, the Kansas City Chiefs aren't in the Super Bowl. That's the prime example of a short memory.
Definitely.
Right? Defense gives up a big play. Now we got to line back up. Take us through what you were thinking during those plays and how you had the wherewithal to punch the football out at the goal line.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with the play where he caught the ball. You know, I was going to safety. I was going to play safety and play my half and got too nosy, you know, and he caught the ball and, you know, did his little thing and I made the tackle. And when he got up, you know, I seen him at the back of me when he spent the ball. So I'm in my head like he's young, you know. You respect the game. You know, I know a play going to come where I can make a play. And so I seen it, and I knew he was going under. I just had to make it to him. You know, he was fast, and I was like, just make the tackle. And once I seen him punch the ball out to reach for the touchdown, something you never want to do. So I swiped at the ball, and big time play.
After you make that play, is it starting to register to you, okay, this might have gave us the opportunity to get another one of these
It definitely gave me that, to know this opportunity to go back out there. We got it. You know, we took the momentum. They had the momentum at the moment. You know, once we made that play, I was like, we took the momentum. Let's go back to the sideline. They want to celebrate. Like, no, let's go back to the sideline. We still got a lot more game to play. And I knew once then the guys locked back in, and I knew we was ready.
Hold up.
You know, the way that he ended it there, doesn't it remind you a little bit of the 49ers in 2019 when the 49ers intercepted Patrick Mahomes down inside the goal line? The Chiefs were down 10 points at that point, right? They needed 2 possessions, and it was like, dude, you just threw an interception. It was a little out in front of Tyreek Hill. Tyreek couldn't come down with it. It bounces around, lands in the hands of a 49er. Now you're still down 2 possessions with 8 minutes to go. And the 49ers thought the game was over.
Yep.
They ran off the field. They were talking about it on the sideline that, you know, that was it. That was the game. That was the moment. They kept them from scoring. L'Jarius knocks the ball free from Zay Flowers. And he said the guys started to celebrate, and I said, no, there's a lot more game left. So we need to head over the sideline and get ready to play more football. And they did, because the Chiefs were up by 2 scores at that point. That would have put him within 1. That would have put him within 1 score of the Chiefs. So, you know, Ryan Clark saying if you don't make that play, the Chiefs don't go to the Super Bowl. Maybe.
Sure.
Certainly they had all the momentum, and they were, you know, doing a lot of things offensively because that happened, and then the interception in the end zone happened, and maybe the interception in the end zone doesn't happen if they're down 3 as opposed to being down 10. Maybe you start to force it if you're Lamar Jackson. I have no idea what's going through his mind or whatever. But the Chiefs made 2 plays in the end zone to get turnovers, and they go to the Super Bowl in large part because of, you know, those 2 plays. A lot of other plays along the way. But that stood out to me of that clip when he said, you know, guys thought the game was over, or it started to celebrate. And I'm like, no, there's a lot more game to play. Just thinking back to 2019 when the 49ers defense thought the game was over when they got the interception from Patrick Mahomes, and then the Chiefs scored 3 straight possessions after that.
I love he's talking about he's playing safety on the play that Zay Flowers caught the ball first on and then spun the ball, and he's like, all right, he's young. I'm gonna get him on back, but I also love he's playing safety. I got a little nosy.
I
got a little nosy.
Great way to describe it. I got nosy, not greedy. I got a little nosy.
Got a little nosy.
And he spun the ball. He's young.
He's young. He's like, I know there'll be a play later when I can get him one back.
That's great.
I love that media, we like these narratives. Fans, we like saying, oh, he did that, he's gonna get him back. But the players themselves noticing that on the field, saying he should have done that. That got me going.
But also, like, L'Jarius Sneed not overreacting to that and, you know, like going after him, getting in his face, you know, pushing, shoving match, him thinking, all right, he's young. You know,
I'm going to get him back.
I wonder if he's like, I probably did some dumb stuff like that when I was young. I mean, this first, he's in the AFC Championship game. Rookie, he's got a chance to go to the Super Bowl. They're down 10, big play, and gets up and celebrates. He's young, but
he's young. He doesn't know that every single little thing can matter in an AFC Championship.
15 yards. It mattered. 15 yards it cost them, and they don't score on that particular possession.
You think a Bill Belichick coach team, he wouldn't have known to not get up and...
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a...
Because and Andy, I'm not just because Andy would never have allowed that. And with what we've learned about the Mike... oh my gosh, can't remember his last name. The analytics guy that taught them all the overtime rules, basically. Yeah. There's no way that they don't turn over every stone.
The 49ers are like talking about it at the end. So, did you know that if we score here, they get the ball still? Did you know that? If we score a touchdown, they still get the ball. What? They do? On the sideline of the Super Bowl going into overtime?
It's not like it's the team that literally they changed the rule because of.
Yeah. Like, unbelievable. Here is L'Jarius Sneed with Ryan Clark, talking about receivers that he may have some issues with.
You have some real on-field beef with a few wide receivers. Like, I've seen it. If it's one dude for you that every time you see him, it's on sight, what wide receiver would that be?
One for the Cincinnati Bengals, Chase.
But why? Like, you ball, both of y'all from the boot?
I respect his game. We're both from the boot. But, just when we get on the field, it's just that competition. I think that's what they were both from the boot.
What about Diggs, though? I haven't seen y'all going back and forth, too. Like,
yeah, we have. That was that Buffalo and, the Chiefs beef right there.
I like that. He's like, oh, yeah, Diggs and I have gone back and forth. That was more team.
That was team beef.
So, Bills and Chiefs beef. Me and Jamar, it's personal. That's a personal beef between us that we go back and forth. Whenever I see him, it's on site. It's Jamar Chase, number one for the Bengals.
I've asked Jamar about that as well.
Yeah?
And he is a...
You want to pick up that name you just dropped there?
Well, I'm trying to give credence to this. But I think it's more of a similar thing. It's like they respect the hell of each other. They're both like, they're great players. But... they get into it. Yeah. I asked Jamar about who's the biggest trash talker, and he's like 38. He's like, yeah, you might not know it, but they get into it, and I love that about, honestly, that's one of my favorite things. We get so sick and tired. We talk about the NBA a lot, but the whole buddy stuff, right? Yeah. Everyone's buddy, and we always will look back, or a lot of people look back and go, Jordan wasn't doing that with other teams, right? But there was something to that. It's kind of fun when you have these rivalries, right? There's a legit rivalry between the Chiefs and the Bengals, but 100%. A legit one between Jamar and L'Jarius. But he brings out the best in both those guys. You're getting the best. Ain't nobody taking a rep off. Yeah. Nobody's sitting here going, oh, bummer, he got me on one.
Yeah.
You're going to try and get him back. And so I've always, I know people don't like Jamar. I get that, and you can say and feel however you want. But that's a guy who loves the game of football. He's very competitive. I love when the Chiefs beat him, but I love that rivalry. I love that fire, because I think it pumps the Chiefs up just how it pumps L'Jarius up too.
Yeah, and we've heard those guys talk about each other's games. Like Jamar Chase has talked about it in the locker room when asked about L'Jarius Sneed, and he's dismissed it about, well, they're double teaming me. Well, yeah, 38's out there, but so is somebody else. Like, yeah, if he's going to guard me one-on-one. But I'm assuming that when the game's over, then it's, respect each other's game. But, yeah, it's like, who is it on site? Number one for the Bengals, Chase? That's the guy, right? Immediate. But the Bills and Chiefs, that's a team. That's a team issue back and forth with those guys. Not like the individual stuff with Chase and L'Jarius Sneed. All right, so the news of the day. Juju Smith-Schuster has signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. He is back in a Chiefs uniform. And we talked about this, what it means earlier in the show for the Chiefs. And to me, it's an added player in the locker room. It's an added player in the wide receiver group. It's terrible news for Tony and I think Justin Ross. Well, I think Tony probably already, his fate was already sealed. But for like a guy like Justin Ross, probably not, a great development for him. I think McColl is still on the team, and they keep 7 receivers, and Juju Smith-Schuster now becomes like the 4th in the pecking order, 5th overall target behind, Kelsey, and then when he's healthy, Hollywood, then Xavier and Rice in some way, shape, or form. And then it would be more than likely Juju or Justin Watson, depending on health of Juju, depending on, different positions that they play.
Different style.
And skill sets that they bring to the table. But in terms of the pecking order, if you're going, this is wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think Juju would probably slot right in at the number 5 spot or in the number 4 spot. And then Watson can slide down to number 5, who they like, but they clearly like Juju as well. And then you got Sky and McCole Hardman, and those bottom 3 guys, more special teams players as well. But to me, I know there's been a lot of speculation about, well, this is now having to do with Rashee Rice. That, okay, Rashee Rice is going to be suspended, so you go and get Juju Smith-Schuster because you need insurance for Rashee Rice. I was told it's not connected to that. That if Rashee Rice did not have the incident earlier, this offseason, that Juju Smith-Schuster would still be signed by the Kansas City Chiefs. That, yes, it can be insurance for Rashee Rice if something happens down the line. But there's certainly there's a decent chance, I don't know what the percentage would be, but I think there's a decent chance that Rashee Rice is not suspended this year. And so if you're signing Juju Smith-Schuster just simply to be Rashee Rice insurance, well, when's that court case going to be adjudicated? When's it going to be done? And then the NFL is going to have to do their investigation as well. So when does that happen? This is about Matt Nagy wanting Juju Smith-Schuster to be a part of the team. When the Patriots released Juju Smith-Schuster, Matt Nagy immediately wanting him. It took a little bit. This is the 26th. He got released on the 9th. So, 17 days, 3.5 weeks that it took from the time he was released to the time that he's officially signed by the Chiefs. And, whether that be physicals and making sure it all works out, looking at the 53. But Matt Nagy wanted Juju Smith-Schuster, wanted him on this team. And if Matt Nagy wanted him on this team, that tells me that Patrick Mahomes wanted him on the team. And there is an element of trust. The word trust, who can you trust? Who's out there in the field that you trust will be there? Who does Mahomes trust? Mahomes trusts Juju Smith-Schuster. And that's what this signing is about to me.
Let's hope it's trust and not a whole bunch of rust. Rusty for Juju Smith-Schuster after all the injuries.
No, I got what you were going with. I don't think you needed it. By explaining it, it turned out to be a bust. Here's Creed Humphrey.
On the past 4 years, and I've really enjoyed it. So getting this opportunity is awesome.
Other than you got a couple rings, what makes it?
Yeah. Well, just the guys around, coaching staff, everything is top notch here. Obviously, getting to play with Pat, things like that. Just the whole situation is perfect for me. So I'm really happy to be here.
There were a couple people that pointed out that it looks like your snap is different. Just wondering, are you snapping the ball differently this year?
Yeah, I changed the way I'm snapping. Coaches asked me to see if I could work on that this offseason to see how it felt, and it feels natural and comfortable, so I'm doing that now.
For the layman, can you describe the difference between what you were doing last year and what you're doing now?
Yeah, so instead of like a traditional snap where you're holding it by the laces, kind of like you're throwing it, now I'm holding it. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's called a dead ball snap, so yeah.
Did that take some time to get used to? Like, what was the training process like?
Yeah, a little bit. Just, making sure I got as much rest as possible this offseason doing it and making sure I'm comfortable doing, all my sets, any angles I need to take after the snap, things like that. Just making sure I'm comfortable doing it and all those, and it's felt comfortable.
Are you seeing results from that, and what's the change in terms of how the ball is delivered to the quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, it's felt comfortable. It's felt good, everything so far. So it's been great, and it's felt comfortable for me. And, I'm not really sure how different it is. That's something you probably have to ask Pat about the delivery to him. But for me, it feels good, and everything's been smooth, so it's been great.
Creed, this contract kind of puts you in a category of your own. I mean, you've reset the center market. You're being paid more like a guard. How much, were both those things important to you? Not just obviously for your own, financial success, but also just for the rest of the NFL and the market for both centers and guards.
Yeah, for me, it was just getting to a point where I'm comfortable, and it worked out on both sides, and it was a good process, and it worked out great, and so I'm excited about it. For me, it's I'm glad that that's out of the way now. I can focus all on football, so it's good.
A couple more guys.
Go ahead.
There was the news of it came out right as the preseason finale was starting. Just what was the feeling, because obviously we weren't there with you, but what was the feeling of of getting that sort of agreed to in principle, and then how was the guys' reactions on the sideline?
It was great. Everybody was telling me congratulations and everything, and I'm excited about it. But yeah, for me, it's I had that day to be excited, but now it's back to work. So I'm back to work, and I'm ready to roll for the season. Preparing for that.
Was there any part of that was just that sense of obligation? I know Patrick and Travis have talked about it, about when you're the highest paid at your position, just making sure that you push the bar for others.
Yeah, I think that's something that everybody wants to do for the sake of everybody in the NFL. It's good for everybody in the NFL. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. Again, they did a great job. My agents did a great job negotiating, and it was a good process. And, I'm excited the way it turned out and ready to play 4 more years here.
Creed, the Chiefs gave out some money this year. Chris signed his new deal a few months ago. Kelsey got an extension. Butker got his deal. Were you thinking at any point you'd have to move on to get a contract like this?
Yeah, for me, I never really thought about it. For me, I've just tried to stay focused on ball, and that's the way I've approached this whole thing. Just stay focused on ball and improving what I can every day. So, it was never really something that I was, too busy straining and thinking over too much.
Creed, there's you're the most recent guy to get a contract extension. The Chiefs have had obviously a lot of success drafting guys in 2021, 2022. How much of your success and obviously getting your deal done do you sort of try to ensure that the guys you came up with in the league are going to obviously stay with the team as well?
Yeah, we obviously would love to be able to have everyone stay. So it's not really too much on my mind to figure that out. So for me, it's just now focusing on football for me, and focusing on this year, focusing on the days ahead, things like that, getting ready for another run of this thing. So we're excited about it and ready to roll.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Congratulations.
All right, there's Creed Humphrey, the highest paid center in the NFL, and will be along with the Chiefs for a number of years moving forward. Gets that contract extension.
4 more years.
So changing the way that he snaps feels natural, comfortable. So try to explain it the best I can, or you can just simply look up on Google what a dead ball snap is, and you'll see plenty of pictures. But so Creed Humphrey was snapping with the laces in his hands as if you would throw a football. Now, if you picture a dead ball snap, it's where the center holds the ball almost straight in the air, and the laces are either to the right or the left. Not where you're holding the laces that are down across your fingers. The laces are either by your thumb or your pinky. And then the ball is straight in the air. And instead of facing, instead of being parallel with the ground, it's more perpendicular to the ground when they're holding it. And then that snap is going straight back. And apparently the reason he was maybe doing it incorrectly was by holding the laces and snapping it like he's throwing the football underneath his legs. Now he's holding it in a dead ball stance and snapping it and just snapping the football back there, not trying to spin it back there in a specific way to Patrick Mahomes.
I'm reading a whole bunch of stories. It goes back to even 2009.
Well, Harbaugh's a big dead ball center snapper. There was Michigan. There was a bunch of stories and stuff back in the day when it's like mid-2000s when everybody started making the change.
Yeah, it looks like 2009. It looks like it, but what it does is it eliminates bad snaps. That's the whole point of it.
Yes.
It's just easier. It might not get back quite as quick. There's some talk about how in 2017 they did a little. We can talk more in detail about this, but it might take the center a little bit longer to get into his move.
Yeah.
Blocking just because you have to be on your heels more when you do the dead ball snap versus traditional.
Yeah. So we'll see. He said he's comfortable with it, feels good and natural. Here's Drew Tranquil.
Again, it's been a while against our offense. So obviously perfecting our craft and our technique. And we'll get into the X's and O's of the Baltimore prep later this week and into next week. But good to get back out there. It was hot, full pads. It was a tough one, but it was good to be back out there.
Is there sort of a, mental lever that you switched? So it's preseason, training camp, all of that, and now you're getting down to the game that matter and that kind of preparation?
I think in human nature, you feel like as you get closer to when it really counts, you feel that way. If I was to say there was one, Spags might get on me. He talks about the switch always being on. But as it gets towards that opening day, certainly as a player, as you play more years in this league, you start feeling the excitement of what that is and what it means. It's a lot.
Drew, with regard to Spags, what have you learned about him over your time here, and what is it you think enables him to succeed as he has?
He's a really consistent coach. Doesn't matter if it's the off-season, OTAs, training camp. He's really steady in his messaging, in the way he goes about it, and the way he wants it done. I'd say consistency is a big thing with him. He's done it for a long time at a high level.
Did you find it particularly difficult to learn his system, or no? It seemed like you hit the ground running, but I mean, does he pose more of a challenge than some defensive coordinators do?
Yeah, last offseason in the OTAs, when we were doing our virtual and then showing up here, I had no clue what was going on. I was like, all the verbiage, all the communication, it took a second to learn. Once you understand conceptually kind of what he's trying to do, you can kind of piece things together and the game starts happening faster, but it's a lot at first.
True to that regard, you guys had no outside defensive free agents brought in this offseason. How much do you think it can help to have a whole team coming back knowing exactly what you're talking about, what you need to do?
I mean, in terms of communication, when you have guys who have played together, certainly it makes it easier. You see it at every level, in every sport. When guys are new together, there's a growing pains that happen, and so we're grateful to be, returning a lot of our guys on defense. Obviously lost Willie, lost LJ, lost a few others who were key players. But I think it's a credit to our coaching and our front office for bringing in great players and developing great players. And when you have that continuity, you have a chance for success.
Sure, you mentioned, you do lose players, it's business, and you got your new contract in the offseason. When you see a teammate like Creed also get paid, you've seen others, what's the kind of messages does it send? And what's the kind of mood in the locker room when you see that guys do and can get rewarded for staying here and winning here?
Well, I mean, there's certainly great players that get paid, and there's certainly great players that teams move on from. And I know in regards to Creed, we're super grateful to have him back. He's a key piece to our offensive line, our key piece to our team, honestly. But whenever you have guys, internal guys who do well for a team and they bring them back, I think the camaraderie and the excitement and the guys, it makes the guys excited. It makes the young guys who are looking for that next contract excited for the potential to make this place home. But it certainly brings excitement.
You weren't here with Juju, but he's back. What did you see from teammates kind of reuniting with him?
Well, Nick was saying he was getting treatment on the table today, and he's like, that voice sounds so familiar. And he looked up, and Juju's like, what's up, brother? So I look forward to meeting Juju and getting after it. I hear he's a great player. Him and Pat have good chemistry, and I think he missed like 4 or 5 games. It's almost had 1,000 yards for the team a few years ago. So he'll be a key addition for us and help us.
Couple more.
Does the chemistry of this defense carry over from last year? And I mean, you guys have had people kind of in and out, injuries during the preseason. Do you have to kind of reestablish that as you get ready for Baltimore, or do you feel like it does kind of carry over?
Well, it's a great point because you're constantly trying to build chemistry, and even in this preseason, we've faced some adversity with having guys go down. You talk about Chris, you talk about Nick, you talk about different guys missing some time. Jay Watt just getting back in the fold. Jay Reed missing some time with the quad, and so whenever you have guys in and out, it's hard to build that chemistry. We're certainly thankful to be getting those guys back and start building and trying to play our best football week in and week out.
Anybody else? Last one.
Do you have any experience of that you can take from playing on opening night that's different than like Sunday at 1 o'clock, Sunday at noon? Any difference that you can have preparing for when you know you're the only game on the stage that night?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different scenarios in the NFL where I feel like you're the only game on, whether it's Sunday night football or Monday night. But opening night in particular is super exciting because you're kicking off the NFL season for everybody. And so all the eyes, anybody who's paying attention to the NFL, you have like Sunday night football, teams are traveling home. Opening night, everybody's watching. To be honest, you don't think about that, I think, as a player. I think it's just controlling the adrenaline and the emotions, the human experience of a big moment, and trying to calm those nerves and calm that excitement and curb it and use it in a positive way. But at the end of the day, try to execute to your best ability. And that's what we're going to have to do because they're a really good team. And we obviously know what happened in the AFC Championship game. So they're going to be coming in here hot, as is every team. But we welcome the competition. We're really looking forward to it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
All right, there's Drew Tranquil. A couple more years here in Kansas City for Drew, and a really good signing last year, good re-signing for the Chiefs, and opening day getting closer and closer, and you get that exciting feeling. You start to feel a little bit more, and then no outside defensive free agents really, and talks about the communication being easier. I did love the question about Juju being back, saying that getting treatment there, and Nick Bolton said, I recognize that name, and it was Juju. Said, I'm looking forward to meeting him. I've heard he and Pat have great chemistry.
Again.
I mean, just like the fact that that's all he knows about Juju is that, hey, Juju's back in the building. What do you know about him? Well, I've heard he and Pat have great chemistry. Okay. Again, going to what we talked about with Matt Nagy wanting Juju Smith-Schuster back. And again, Matt Nagy was the quarterback's coach when Juju Smith-Schuster was on the team when they win the Super Bowl. And so he worked very close with Patrick Mahomes all year. So knowing who Patrick Mahomes could throw to, what that chemistry was like, who he could trust. And when Juju Smith-Schuster was released, Matt Nagy wanted him back. And I think by proxy, that's also Patrick Mahomes wants Juju Smith-Schuster back in the building because, as Drew Tranquil said, he and Pat have great chemistry. So there you go. Joshua Williams did not practice today with a hamstring injury. So that means last week he didn't practice either. And this week not practicing with a hamstring. So the Chiefs cannot get a consistently healthy cornerback outside of McDuffie in training camp and in practices leading up to Baltimore. Kelvin Joseph has missed time. Najee Johnson has missed time. We know Jalen Watson missing time. Joshua Williams missing time. So they are having some issues of health for that number 2 cornerback right now for the Chiefs. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone next. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. Drew Tranquil was asked about, the game getting closer. It's a week from Thursday is when they play their first game of the season. Raised that banner against Baltimore that they played in the AFC Championship game and said, I don't want Spags to hear this because, Spags says you got to have it every single day. But, as a player you played in this league a long time, it gets closer. You start to feel the excitement, and you feel that. And they did a preview or a promo yesterday. Did NBC for the first 3 games on NBC/Peacock this year. It's Thursday night, Chiefs and Ravens opening up the season. Friday, Peacock only. Eagles and Packers. And then Sunday night football, Lions and Rams. Like, damn, there's some bangers coming up in the first week of the season on NBC and Peacock. But, that Friday game, season opens up on Thursday for the NFL, and then they do have a game on Friday, and that is Peacock Internet only, and that's going to be an awesome game as well with Philadelphia and Green Bay, so that should be a fun one. But Chiefs and Ravens get things rolling on NBC. Packers, Eagles, and then Sunday Night Football ending that with and that's just sort of the ones that are on NBC and Peacock. Obviously, there are other good matchups that will be taking place in Week 1 of the NFL season. So and that everybody be watching, especially that Jets and 49ers game. Oh my God. Cannot wait for the Jets and 49ers game coming up on Monday Night Football.
Dude, I just can't wait for football.
Well,
college
yes.
football being back was electric. Florida State. Well, if only they would have had their starters, right? They would have won. Right, guys? No.
Well, the problem is you can't stop when Georgia Tech throws the ball like that. You're unable to beat them. When they have all of those completions, it's really, really tough to play a team like that.
That scores, 24 points? It's really hard to beat that.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Georgia Tech completing 11 passes in the game. It's difficult to beat a team that completes 11 passes in the game.
Oh, man. I don't mean to take shots at...
Not even to mention that you started off 8-0. Like, Florida State, you scored the first touchdown, went for 2, you're up 8-0. You were just going to pour it on. And that was when it sort of stopped at that point. But you know what? I mean, Mizzou's number 10 now.
Hey!
Florida State being number 10, they gone.
KU, K-State, welcome. You just moved up 1.
Florida State in the top 10, you got to go. Get out of the top 10, Florida State. Thank you to, we heard Drew Tranquil, we heard Creed Humphrey there with the Kansas City Chiefs getting ready for this game coming up against Baltimore. And again, we mentioned it just a little bit, the fact that Creed Humphrey said, what does he know about Juju Smith-Schuster being signed? Is like, well, I can't wait to meet him. Seems like a good dude. I heard he and Pat have great chemistry. It's like, exactly. That's exactly right. That's what you know about Juju Smith-Schuster is that Patrick Mahomes and Juju Smith-Schuster have great chemistry together. And yes, they do. And we'll see, we'll see what that means this year. I mean, yes, they have great, but also Juju Smith-Schuster's health, his knees.
Sure.
Where's he at?
You have third down backs. He's about to be a third down wide receiver.
That's right.
You save his knees. You save the snap count. See, I've figured this out now. Third down, 3rd and 4. Got to move the chains. All right, Juju, dust those kneecaps off. Get on the field.
Yep, just a possession guy. You need Mahomes to trust somebody that's going to be in the spot he's supposed to be in. You need Mahomes or that guy to be there. That Mahomes knows that. Juju's been that guy so far for this in 1 year. In 1 year for the Chiefs, for Patrick Mahomes.
Didn't that feel very Patriots, where the Chiefs don't sign the guy coming off of a good year?
Yeah.
Great year in Kansas City, really solid, but the little injuries. Let some other team pay the guy the 3-year contract. All of a sudden, doesn't work out there. They cut the guy. They welcome him back with open arms.
Yeah.
This was the Patriots' method for the longest time.
Except for the fact that the Patriots were the ones that went and gave him the 3-year contract.
Yeah,
for some
that's why it was
reason,
so funny.
Yeah,
because
it's
it was
unbelievable.
like they didn't learn. Somehow, Bill didn't learn from former Bill. I don't know how the Billiams work in this situation.
Bill with Brady.
Bill with Brady.
He didn't learn from Bill when he had Brady because non-Brady. Bill apparently does things differently.
Yeah, apparently.
We don't have Brady. We got to sign this guy to a 3-year contract and give him $10 million per year. But now the Chiefs get the guy who the Patriots paid.
Was it Jamie Collins who did this like 4 times? Anywhere else he went was just brutal, and then he would come back and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm really good again."
I think you're thinking of every assistant coach under Bill Belichick ever.
There's a story. Yep.
It happened like 3 times with Jamie Collins. New England, Cleveland, New England, Detroit, back to New England. So he went to 2 different spots in between the New Englands.
So when he was sent to Cleveland, allegedly the story was that instead of back when the old holdouts happened, he stood up in the middle of a team meeting and asked Bill Belichick why the contract situation hadn't been handled in front of the team.
Oh,
and
my God.
apparently 2 days later, he was on the Cleveland Browns.
That's odd. Why would you wouldn't expect Bill Belichick to react that way?
Yeah.
But
they brought him back, so there was obviously not too much bad blood. And he, as Sterling
Looks
said,
like they got the deal.
Yeah. As Sterling says, it works out perfectly for the Patriots, but no one else.
But here's the thing, though. Like I saw that earlier today when the news came out that Juju was re-signing with the Chiefs. It was, oh, hey, the Super Bowl champs are getting a receiver that the Patriots are paying. That Patrick Mahomes, wants and trusts. And that was, my takeaway, that Patrick Mahomes wants this guy on the team. And if Patrick Mahomes wants the guy on the team, then, you do what you can to get the guy on the team. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. But you're not looking at Juju Smith-Schuster to be the number 1 receiver.
No.
You're looking at him to be, what, the 4th option? At
Fourth or
wide
fifth,
receiver?
yeah.
Like 5th option overall with Kelsey. That's when Hollywood Brown is healthy.
Sure.
So if you're looking at the wide receiver group right now, he's the 4th guy in line.
Do you think that, and this is tinfoil hat for sure here, shout out Matt.
I see
shout
you
out
wearing
Matt
it,
Derrick
too.
here.
Nice.
They are already planning on cutting Tony, and so to kind of mitigate that sunk cost of paying a guy that they have to cut $2 million, they are trying to get a guy on the team that another team is paying that's actually a better player at the same position.
Yeah, and you got to pay him like 1.5, 1.6.
It's accounting. It's an accounting move they're doing.
Yeah,
I like that.
Well, except for the fact that it's not just that. I mean, it could be one of the benefits
Right.
of that.
I don't think it's just that, but it's kind of a wash, maybe.
Yeah,
because you get a better player.
Right,
and the
at
other
least a
team's
player
playing.
that the Chiefs will like.
Right.
I mean, I'll be shocked if Kadarius Toney's on this team.
Oh, I'd be
beyond
beyond befuddled.
I think this team is definitely done with Kadarius Toney. I think there are a number of coaches that are probably done with Kadarius Toney at this point. I mean, you'd have to be at this point done with Kadarius Toney. So does that mean they're done with Justin Ross, like on the team? Done? This is bad news, I think, for Justin Ross being on the team. Like, what does Justin Ross bring that Juju does not? Like, what you're getting from Juju, back shoulder guy, bigger body, could win some jump balls if need be. That was Justin Ross. Like, that's who Justin Ross was. Like, Juju's a big dude now. And there's no reason, really, to have a Justin Ross on the team if you're getting that already from Juju Smith-Schuster.
I think practice squad, Justin Ross, it makes a lot of sense.
Great.
Again, I have nothing against Justin Ross, but I don't know how much he's moving the needle in this instance. Juju does bring something a little different. I mean, it's very similar to Rashee Rice, but those two are almost the outliers on the roster, right?
Yeah.
Juju and Rashee.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think Juju plays a lot of snaps. Maybe I'm wrong, and they run him out there a ton, is even with Hollywood being out. But I just see Juju as a 15, 20 snap at most kind of guy.
Yeah.
The numbers probably won't look great, but I think we'll probably look back and say, do you remember that 3rd down catch that Juju had? Do you remember when he kept the chains moving? Do you remember him in the red zone when he was able to go to the corner and Mahomes hit him for a nice touch? Like that's what I think that Juju brings. It's what they wanted Justin Ross to be, but Juju has the consistency more so. Jump balls maybe not as much because just the knees. I don't think he's getting up there the way Justin is. But as far as using his body to get open in those situations, the consistency and the trust factor clearly is there.
When healthy is a stipulation with Juju Smith-Schuster. When healthy last year with the Patriots, in the games that he played 65% of the snaps. In the games that he played. With the Chiefs, he played 71% of the snaps. And he played 16 of the 17 games with the Chiefs. Left one injured, missed one because of the concussion. But 71% of the snaps with the Chiefs, 65% of the snaps with the Patriots. So when he was healthy, he was out there playing. 2/3 of the snaps on offense, Juju Smith-Schuster was on the field for the Patriots last year. So it isn't like a guy who was often injured, and then when he was active, was only out there for 30% of the snaps or something like that. He was a guy that they put out there a lot. They just had bad quarterback play.
Sure.
And again, he missed some games. I do wonder how much, if you are a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster and you're playing on a team that's winning 3 or 4 games, are you going out there and playing at 70%? Or are you taking an extra week off because I want to get to fully 100%? Or with the Chiefs, are you playing at 70% if you're trying to win a Super Bowl and you've got a big game coming up and they need you to be available? You're going out there and doing that. Probably more likely that you're going to push it to the edge a little bit, that you're going to play in a little more pain than maybe you would if you're playing on a team that's winning 3 or 4 games.
What's interesting is he's only 27.
Yeah,
like
he has old knees.
For as long as he's been around in the NFL, he's 27 years old.
21 years old when he got to the NFL.
Yeah, and he had 1,400 yards that year. 1,426.
Yeah,
pretty absurd.
His first year in the NFL was the age of Jalen Daniels. Right now,
yeah,
he's 21 years. Could barely drink when he got to the NFL.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I'm fine with it. Again, that means Dave Tobe's most likely not getting Remigio on the team.
No.
That means Sky Moore and Carson Steele, you're probably looking at your 2 kickoff returners.
Yeah.
Punt returner, we'll see. I know Xavier Worthy wants to do it. How much is it Xavier? How much of it is it going to be McCole Hardman or name a guy back there?
Yeah.
But Remigio, Tony, Ross seems like the end for those 3 guys in particular. That's the way I view this.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think we agree that this spells the end for those particular guys. Remigio, it was an interesting point. I think it was that Matt Derrick made when he was talking about Remigio, when he said that when I hear Dave Tobe is pounding the table for Remigio, kind of tells me that he's not on the team. Because Dave Tobe is having to go out of his way to say, I'm going to pound the table for this guy. Would he have to pound the table for Nico Remigio if the Chiefs said, no, this Remigio's made the squad? You know, he's good enough as a wide receiver, and we love him as a kick returner. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Dave Tobe's like, no, I'm going to try to get him on the team. I'm going to pound the table for this guy because he's not on the team right now. So I'm going to try to get him on.
Wasn't pounding the table for Kadarius or Sky either.
I don't think anybody's going to be pounding the table for those guys.
But maybe that was that quote's also kind of hidden agenda.
Also,
as well.
maybe you bring in Juju Smith-Schuster, and maybe you can move one of these guys. Maybe you do trade Kadarius Toney for brand new footballs. Just an entire bag of brand new footballs.
They're expensive.
They start to add up. That really starts to add up in how much those things cost. So, you're trying to
take baseballs.
Well, I don't think you would need a new bag of baseballs.
No, but I'd still take them. It's better than a washing machine. I'd take a washing machine.
It's better than nothing, which is what they're getting from Kadarius Toney. Yeah, they got once Kadarius Toney dropped the ball that turned out to be the interception against the Patriots, they literally got nothing from him except for an IG Live rant. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. Hanging out on this Monday. And it is cut down day tomorrow for the Kansas City Chiefs. They got to get down to 53 men on their roster. And, we've seen some change in what would probably be wide receiver. We'll find out with, a number of guys that were absent today at practice. We know that Aminihu and B.J. Thompson are guys that are, missing at practice with the PUP list and the DFI. And then there were a number of other players that were just absent for unspecified reasons. Here are the guys that were absent for unspecified reasons. There was not a particular reason given for these guys. Could have been injuries that they missed. Some of these sort of seem like that they're being released. Nick Torres, tackle. So if you want to tell me who Nick Torres, the tackle, is for the Chiefs.
He tackles. Or he plays tackle, one of the two.
He plays tackle.
It's a very confusing name for a position where you're not supposed to tackle.
He plays tackle. Oh, so he tackles the guys? No, actually, he stops people from tackling. So wouldn't that be the tackle stopper? Well,
the anti-tackle.
That's right. Griffin McDowell, offensive lineman. If you know who Griffin McDowell is, let me know. Isaiah Gathings, tight end.
I know him.
I know that name. Yeah, yeah. We got one.
Jorquarius Spivey. Didn't
Yes.
even know they had him on the roster, but I love that. Phillip Brooks, not there today. Swayze Bowman, not there today.
Oh, no, Swayze.
Roadhouse.
Again,
Roadhouse.
could be an underlying injury that they didn't give injury updates today
He's about to
after
be
practice.
ghost.
Luquay Washington, linebacker. Linebacker Curtis Jacobs, not at practice today. Cornerback Kelvin Joseph, not at practice today. Again, these could be underlying injury. They didn't go to the podium when Creed Humphrey and
Think
Drew
all
Tranquil-
these guys got injured?
I'm just saying some of the names that we think have a chance to make the team could be injuries.
Any of those names do you think is going to make the team that you've said so far?
Kelvin Joseph, I think, has been on a lot of people's roster, including mine.
He did just give on Twitter the praying hands emoji.
Oh.
Whatever that means. I don't know if
Well, it means
he's
he's
praying for
praying,
a spot.
Is that a thank you,
I
or
was
is
gonna
that
say
praying, or is it a high five?
Could be a high
Thankful.
five. He could be giving a high five to someone.
When you type thankful into iMessage, that's the emoji that pops up.
Is it
well, then maybe
thankful?
he's thankful for making the team.
Yeah, he didn't have to be out there today because they're like, hey.
That's it. He could be thankful for it or praying to make it.
Hey, Kelvin, we don't need you to practice on Monday. Go find a place to live. You've made the squad. Thankful that now I can go shopping for an apartment in Kansas. I don't have to live at the team hotel.
Breaking
while I'm
news.
trying to, okay. Oh, he wants you to play
I
the
want him to do
sounder.
the thing.
I want you to do the thing.
Wide receiver CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys reached an agreement on a 4-year, $136 million contract, second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history.
I am shocked. Shocked, I tell you. Shocked beyond belief that that he's getting that money. Not shocked, actually.
Someone said recently that Jerry Jones is not a great negotiator because if he just pays the guys a year before, he's actually paying more.
Yes.
On all these players that everyone's like, oh, he's a wheeling dealing. It's Jerry Jones. This is how he negotiates. Like, dude, you're losing money by pushing it back and fighting your players that you eventually sign anyway.
Yeah, he's going to. I mean, you're paying more money. It's exactly what you said, Dylan. Like if you just simply pay the guy, last year.
Yep. Justin Jefferson doesn't happen yet. Amon-Ra St. Brown hadn't happened yet.
Yep. You're right. Every single time he's like, I'm not going to pay him. I don't really care. We'll figure it out. And then all of a sudden it's just, all right, fine. I acquiesce. I'll pay the man.
Maybe he'll learn with Micah Parsons. Like, just do it now.
He just wants some glory hole.
What? What?
That's what you've never heard Jerry Jones talk about that? Where have you been, Sterling?
Hang on.
Do you listen to radio, Sterling? Do you actually listen to sports radio ever, Sterling? You've never heard Jerry Jones talk about that? I mean, come on, go ahead and play any of the clips that we have of Jerry Jones. I'm actually surprised that CeeDee Lamb is not the highest paid wide receiver. The real surprise is that he's getting $1 million per year less than Justin Jefferson. I thought he would get 35.0001.
While you're up there that high, just
yes. I thought
So at dinner parties, he can say he's the highest.
convinced that
Is
Jerry
it
Jones.
just for dinner parties? Is that the only?
Yes, that's what it's all
Yeah,
for.
I was convinced that Jerry Jones would say, "I have the highest paid wide receiver."
Mick at
In the
dinner
NFL.
parties always goes and says, "I'm the highest."
I'm the highest
I'm the highest
paid player
in my family.
Is it a
Well,
high
that's
bar?
true.
Or
That is true.
Absolutely true.
That is true. Yes.
Married a teacher.
Yeah, we.
Oh, I didn't know if you were counting like relatives or.
No, I'm not counting them.
Okay.
Immediate
just like
family.
just like
Immediate
your
family.
kids,
Yes.
which good for
Yes.
you.
The immediate family.
What'd you say? No, Dylan, say
here
that
you go,
over
Dylan.
the air,
No,
please.
he's got the clip. Here you go. Here you go, Dylan.
And so, having said that, I want me some glory hole.
I think we had an entire clip in the bracket of sound.
Yes, hang on.
That was just Jerry and his many times over the last year or so that he's decided to use that turn of phrase. For whatever reason, I do believe it happens to be like an oil thing. I think it's a terminology with oil that maybe you you strike oil. Maybe that's what it's called.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a term before it was the term that we all think about.
You think so?
Yes.
What was the first? What I was gonna say. You know what I'm gonna go with? What happened first is the way that I'll
I think
use
the
that.
oil thing happened
Is
first.
the way that I'll use that phrase. Let's hear the Jerry Jones cut up.
Sport, the rough times that you have with sport, everybody has it. Everybody, you can't really play unless you have some hard times. But it is the absolute glory hole. But I went back to work, got up on Monday morning, and there it was, glory hole.
I think that's a part of leadership, is to have some of the guys that have gone before that have been disappointed to share it with everybody involved. For me, it's a reminder. I, too, have been here 23 years. And it is a reminder. I've been here when it was glory hole days, and I've been here when it wasn't. And so, having said that,
times have changed.
I want me some glory hole.
He wants him some glory hole.
He's so rich that people are
So
afraid
I have that
to tell him.
perspective.
I have that
He's still
perspective.
going. He's so rich, people are afraid to tell him what the other meaning is.
They
do you
just
think
laugh at it.
Do you think he knows, or do you think at this point he's like,
Nick's right.
I know, and I'm just doing this because it's funny to say glory
Because we
hole.
all talked about this, like when this was going through the bracket of sound, and that was Mick's, or that was our sentiment. Was like, no one around him has said anything yet, and they should.
But they're laughing though.
Right.
When he says that in that last clip, they're cracking up laughing in the audience, and they're doing that because they're thinking of.
Yeah. I think Jerry gets off the stand and is like, man, I killed it out there.
Killed
today.
it.
I don't know what
Telling
I
you,
said.
man, that was like the glory hole of audiences.
I
that
love how
had
he's
right
talking about
there, man.
sharing the glory hole too. He wants to make
Yes.
sure it's shared.
Oh, boy.
He's not keeping it for
was
himself.
the absolute
Yeah.
glory hole.
Glory hole times.
It's. I'm not going to Google it, by the way. I'm just going to assume it is an oil term. That's what I'm going to assume.
I got a station phone here.
I'll
Let me
some-
take a look.
Oh, yeah, Google it there. Yeah,
You should absolutely
you
do
should
that.
Google that.
No reason for you to have to worry about
Glory
anything with
hole
HR.
original meaning.
Oil. Just put in oil.
Okay. There are two meanings here. I'm going to
Really?
read the first one.
Please.
In glass blowing, a glory hole is a pot that reheats large pieces of glass.
Okay.
Nice.
So and,
He's a big pottery guy.
Yeah, there's another. There's
the
another.
second
there's
definition?
What's the
there's
second one?
When are we going to? We're going to break.
So that's the only other definition?
There's two. Yeah. There.
No,
read
I mean
one.
that's the only other.
That's the only other one. Well, AI did that. We're still new with AI. See if there's any other.
So he's a big pottery guy.
Apparently.
So in the 1820s, oh, maybe this is it, because I think that's when Jerry was born. In the 1820s, a glory hole was a slang term for a junk drawer.
It's a commonly used expression in oil and gas
That
industry.
too. Okay.
Well, I like the junk drawer one. What do you have in your glory hole, Mick?
Yeah.
What do I have in my junk drawer?
It's a commonly used expression in the oil and gas exploration business.
But what is it used for?
See.
Do you dig until you
offshore
find
petroleum industry and excavation into the seafloor designed to protect the wellhead equipment installed at the surface of a petroleum well from icebergs or pack ice. There you go. Juju Smith-Schuster, what do you think there, Mick? Huh? Huh? A little juju back in the wide receiver group.
Let's do it.
They're getting juju. They're getting their juju back.
Let's do it.
That wide receiver room lost all their juju last year.
Now they've got it.
Now they got all the juju back. Feeling good about themselves, right? It's going to be a great year. The offense is so back, guys. The offense is so back. It is so much back that people aren't even going to realize how back this offense is. It is so back.
Bobby, he's like the number 5 receiver, right?
Right, 4 or 5.
Who's that nudging out?
Well, I think Ross and Tony are out. I think Tony was already out. I think this nudge is out Justin Ross, too.
McColl and Sky?
McColl and Sky, I think, are still on the team for 6 and 7. 6 wide receiver. I mean, the fact that Sky didn't play last Thursday, I think he's on the team. McColl, that speed replacement for Hollywood Brown.
You can't cut the guy who made one of the most memorable walk-off plays, one of the only walk-off plays in NFL season history, Super Bowl history.
Just have him back
right away. Anyway, he can.
Yeah, just maybe down the road when Hollywood comes back. Then if you have to do that, then certainly. But maybe it'll work itself out. It's one of those things where this happened, that happened. He stays on the team. But
listen, you're bringing back a guy 2 years after he was the number 1 guy in your receiver room, and you won a Super Bowl, and now he's the number 5 dude.
4 or 5.
Maybe 4 ahead of Watson.
Right,
yeah, sure.
maybe 4.
Yep.
But 4 at best. 5 target at
4
best.
at best.
5th target at best. He was the first or second target in games 2 years ago, and they won a Super Bowl. He's the 5th target at best on this team when Hollywood is healthy.
He's the reason they won that Super Bowl. If he would have had any sort of taken one step faster or slower or whatever and not gotten held, Chiefs maybe lose that game.
If he doesn't win the rep against Bradbury,
he won the rep,
which Bradbury then had to hold him because it would have been at least a first down, maybe a touchdown. If he didn't hold him, Juju Smith-Schuster goes around him. But he won the rep, so he had to hold him. And he even said after the game he held him. He even said, I held him. They just hadn't been calling it this game. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, officer, I was speeding. But every other time I've sped through here, you never pulled me over. So I don't know why you gave me a ticket this time. In fact, I'm going to go to the judge. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to file a writ of habeas corpus. I'm going to put the system on trial. All right? You have never given me I have flown through here a 50 and a 35 almost every day for the last 3 weeks. Not once did you give me a ticket.
Not in Leawood.
It's the Mike Gundy argument. The Ollie Gordon, Mike Gundy argument, Mick, right?
Which one?
Which one?
Which one?
There's a lot this offseason. Oh, that he's done it like 1,000 times?
Yeah, Mike Gundy is like, well, I mean, I can't
punish
that. I do it all the time. I mean, who amongst us hasn't had a lot to drink and just barely over the legal limit and decide to drive? I mean, it's if I had $1 for every time, I'd probably have as much money as I have now. I mean, it's just.
I actually do have $1 for every time.
I do.
Yeah.
They actually paid me. It was awesome.
That'd be cool.
Am I supposed to say something to that?
No, you're not.
Like it was
you're not.
Dead
I was
air
just.
I was just thinking about
Jerry Jones.
Well, I was
and
thinking about
CeeDee
the start of
Lamb.
the college football season on Saturday.
Well, I was thinking about
Oklahoma State, South Dakota State taking on the national champs are the Pokes.
I was trying to get past. I was still in my mind trying to move past the what Sterling thought Jerry Jones was talking about. It's ridiculous. Really, this is a
His
clean
junk
show.
drawer.
It's a clean show.
Yeah, that's another term that could be taken a couple different ways.
What you got in your junk drawer?
Isn't it surprising that Florida State lost a game that they weren't expected to lose?
I know, right?
I feel like college football is so back now.
Listen,
college football is just as back as the Chiefs' offense.
That's true, and
they
I
are
was
both so back right now.
I was pounding the table for them to be in the playoff last year, and then they laid that egg against Georgia, a team that actually should have been in the playoff, right?
Yeah.
In the bowl game, and then Georgia Tech beats them in. I loved it, and so Mizzou is top 10. Going to be top 10 before they play.
Number 10 team in the country.
Did
baby.
it come out today or when is Tuesday? What do we do? I think
it comes out today or Tuesday.
Sure.
That's Soren. He votes on
Pokes,
these things.
Pokes move up a spot as well. Let's go.
K-State, KU probably. I bet this knocks out Florida State out of the top 25.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they would end up.
Wasn't Georgia Tech picked towards the bottom?
Yeah. It wasn't necessarily supposed to be a game where Florida State would lose. Certainly, if you said, "Hey, Georgia Tech's only going to complete 8 passes in this game," or excuse me, 11 passes in this game. Georgia Tech completes 11 passes in this game. I'll take Florida State minus the number. Oh, by the way, Florida State jumps out 8-0 in their opening drive. and Georgia Tech completes 11 passes in the game.
Ran the swinging gate. For
Yeah,
the
you know what?
2-point.
I'm going to take an alternate line for Florida State winning this one. Give me the alternate line, Florida State.
We were so ready for football. We were hard up for football Saturday night because we had at one point we realized we were watching. Oh gosh, what was it? Nevada SMU.
I was going to say, was that the late game?
Baby.
We did.
Hawaii was the late.
I couldn't find Hawaii.
Yeah,
that was ESPN Plus, and so we weren't going to go through those hoops. We were watching that. We were watching Giants Jets preseason, where none of the starters were playing.
Yeah, why not?
And then
How many beers did you have at this point? How many deep were you?
I don't know. If you,
it was Montana State, New Mexico.
No, my point.
47. I don't like you. I don't count the beers every night.
My point
and then brag
is,
the next day.
I don't
Sterling.
do that either. My point is,
well, I mean, if you're asking somebody else how many beers they had, I think there's an expectation
when have you
of counting
ever
the beers.
heard me ever say that ever in my life?
Once a week.
Yeah, probably
once a week.
Yeah.
No, name
Dude,
a specific
guess how many
time.
beers we had at the lake this
I'll
weekend.
start marking them now.
I deleted them. The beers were deleted.
Didn't you just talk about like a few days ago about the beer, you and the boys and how many beers you guys
Yeah,
had?
absolutely
I did
did.
not
Beers
say
you
that.
absolutely
That was not true.
Yeah.
My point is, if you're watching on that football, you had to have been fairly
Not
into
really.
the adult
No,
beverages.
Oh, you're just
I'm
excited
ready
for football.
Ready for football.
Yeah.
We want McNeese State, Tarleton State. That
That's-
was the other one.
that's
that
my
was
point.
Like, we have
Why
a problem.
not?
Why are you drinking
No,
too
you-
much? No, we're not. We have a football problem here.
don't
That's
have a
what-
problem.
That's what we had.
You don't have a problem.
We're
at
cheering
all.
on the Cowboys and the Texans. I learned that's one of my learns. I learned that
did-
Tarleton State is the Texans.
I'm pretty sure I bet the under in that game.
Yeah.
I woke
Oh,
up.
I was-
and they
I
have a
woke up the
problem?
next morning and I go, "Oh, nice! You
They
did
have
it."
a
Well,
problem?
college football's back. I'm at least gonna
What
bet.
about Southeast Missouri State, North Alabama?
I was the under in that one too.
Simo covered the 7. The under hit.
Yeah, the under hit. It was by like 1 point, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah, the other under hit when
Well
it was 24-23. They had an extra point that was like blocked, but they were offsides, and then they went for 2, and they got stuffed in the 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
So
That's
the
what-
under hit.
When you're betting the under, you're almost hoping for maybe the worst type of football that ever is put
Oh
on
yeah.
television.
Well, it's the first. It's week 0. They're not ready.
Dude,
You
I-
always bet the under early in the season.
I got Nevada plus 6.5 when they were leading by like 11 late in the third quarter.
No kidding.
Yeah, and then they did their very best to almost lose that. They lost by 6.
They were doing
They
what
lost by
could.
6. It had to do with a pick 6, a safety. I mean, they were just doing everything. They
Nevada
did everything
was-
they did to lose that game.
They were 28-point dogs.
Yeah.
They
That's-
covered it because they lost by 5.
Yeah.
That's college football, baby. That's when you know you're
But
back.
they went for 2 there at the end. Had they got 2, it would have been 7, and my 6.5 bet would have
Oh
lost.
my God. That would have been brutal.
I'm like, how do they know? How do they know?
Even
They know when
during
I
the
start. It was
game.
late third quarter when they bet, but they know when I bet. And
Even live betting. Oh my gosh! Like
We're so back, you guys.
Dude,
so back.
We're so
The
back.
gold medal game with the women versus France. Like it was live scoring in the fourth quarter, and it had the USA was like 1.5 or 2, and they were leading by like 3, but it was still like USA minus 1.5. I'm like, how is this thing that close? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and place some money there. They won by 1 because of that 2-pointer at the end. I'm like, what? Come on, Vic. You didn't see a jumper with the foot on the line going in when they were up 3. Come on,
They knew it.
dude.
It had to be
You
rigged.
what? And
7 minutes to play in the fourth quarter.
You would have
still.
rather that been called a 3-pointer because you could have gone to overtime and still had a chance of
I'm
winning.
not saying I was rooting against the United States. I'm just saying I
You
would have
rooting
liked
for
to.
your money.
I would like to root them on in overtime. Is what I would have preferred to do. If I had my druthers, I would have been cheering very loudly for the U.S. in overtime. That's all. I think they would have won. I'd have been perfectly fine with an overtime victory for the gold medal game. If they still won, they won.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter.
That's still patriotism.
Absolutely.
You just wanted to see more America.
That's right.
You wanted more America.
Yeah. The only one that looked like free money during the Olympics was when one of the books had the time for the 100-meter dash. It's not yards, it's meters, guys.
not.
Come on, get it together.
Different.
I dream of a day that we use the metric. Everybody else uses the metric system.
For lesser known sports,
For lesser-known
like
sports.
swimming and track and field.
we use the metric system. But it was like the winning time was like over under like 9.74. I don't remember what it was, but I went and looked. I'm like, it would have to be the 4th fastest time in the 100-meter.
They got close.
For this to hit. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and pound the over Like, it's going to be more than that. Now, the juice was on the over, so it was like minus 180.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. It's minus 180. I don't care. There's no way that one of the runners, and they're not looked as like all-time great 100-meter sprinters. One of these guys is not going to, have the fourth fastest time ever recorded. It's not happening. But they were the only book that had it that low. It was like everybody else was like, 9.8 something, 9 point. Like, I was like, why is this thing like 0.05 lower? Am I missing something? No, because the other books would have it that low as well. I'm just going to go ahead. I don't know why. It felt like free money. Vegas never has free money.
By the way, the coaches poll in the AP Top 25 is not yet out. Just wanted to check.
Let's go, Saran. Hurry up. Hit send.
So when is it?
Hit send.
I don't know.
Do they do another one after? This
after
is my
week 0,
ignorance
I don't
of
know.
not remembering last year if they did
would.
another one after week 0. Why should Florida State be number 10 throughout this entire weekend?
He's trying to figure out how to slide Syracuse into the top 12 right now, so that's why it's taking a
Not
bit.
happening. Sarin's very good at the votes. I just love when he takes on other teams, fans, and then he ends up being right at the end.
Dude,
Okay, timeout.
The Clemson, Alabama one with
Oh, my
Feinbaum.
God.
Timeout.
dude.
Syracuse, and on the others receiving votes, Syracuse does have 1 vote.
You think it's Sarin?
I guarantee. I'll bet it's not Sarin.
No, it's not, because it's on the coaches poll. It's
not.
Oh,
It's
true, yeah,
It's on
okay.
the coaches side, but I thought that was very.
I guarantee it's not Sarin.
No, it's not.
And if it is, he'll have a reason and an explanation behind why he had them number 25.
25? I'm thinking 15.
No.
Keep him like right on the outside.
One
there,
vote,
looking in.
receiving 1 vote, then it's like
For
25th.
15.
And then
Yeah,
25th.
that's a point. You're
Yeah,
not
it's
receiving
point.
one vote.
Yeah,
It's
so
1
you
point.
got 1 point. You were 25th in the whatever somebody's poll somewhere. But yeah, I don't remember if it came out last year after the.
No, why would you?
After week 0.
Hey, I'm excited for K-State fans and Iowa State fans. Got a lot of Cyclone buddies next year to start off in Ireland. That would
that's
be
right.
very cool.
Yep, that'll be fun.
My son told me he goes to Kansas State, and he said, Dad, I want to go. The student package to go is only $1,300. That's what he said. He said,
Oh, dude,
it's
that's-
only $1,300.
Only.
That's
Well, how
nice.
who taught you about money to where you would ever say, even about a car,
Yeah.
it's only $1,300? I don't care.
Well, if a car is only 13, that you should have
Still
some
then, don't
questions
say
about
it.
that.
Just say it's $1,300, and I'm not buying that car because something's up.
Yeah, something's wrong with the
something's
car.
up.
I feel like you would have been one of the people responsible for teaching him the money, right?
Should have been.
Yes.
And I've failed in that
Was
regard
it
somehow.
your wife? Was it your
yeah,
she?
Here's
that
my
dummy.
Here's my learned. Mick failed at teaching his kid about the how valuable money is.
Yeah, we just kept talking about the birds and the bees over and over again. Couldn't stop that.
Different
talk.
different terms
talk.
for oil and gas and junk drawers and
Now,
everything
son,
else.
If an NFL owner says it, he's talking about this one.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Mick Schaefer, Dylan Michaels. Heading up until 2 o'clock. So we'll get some Learn Funniest Best here in just a little bit. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and get into Learn Funniest Best right now. I was going to bring something else up, but let's go ahead and get it rolling. Learn Funniest Best. We go around the room what we learned from the weekend, funniest from the weekend, and best from the weekend. Because what we might have talked about could have been learned by somebody, so I didn't want to ruin that. What I learned from the weekend is, and if nobody gets to this in the learn, then I'll bring it up later. What I learned this weekend is the Justin Tucker 66-yard field goal will be broken this year. The record 66-yard field goal will be broken this year. Remember when Cam Little for the Jags kicked the 62-yarder again, or at least attempted the 62-yarder against the Chiefs, and he missed it, but it landed halfway up the net.
Yeah.
From 62 yards, he just missed it like right or left. I can't remember which one it was. Brandon Aubrey made a 66-yarder that hit the bottom of the net.
Yeah.
Didn't just scrape over the bottom part of the crossbar. So we're seeing kickers with legs that are just ridiculous these days, and they're pretty accurate as well. So I think this year we'll see somebody break Justin Tucker's record. We've seen already. Look, preseason's the time to do it. Let's attempt it, see what we have. And we saw a couple of guys that with ease could kick 66-yard field goals. Just even two of them in the preseason so far. So what I learned in watching preseason and having some kickers attempt some of these kicks, the leg is there. Somebody's going to break it this year. There's going to be an opportunity for 67, 68. Let's give them a shot.
I want to see a 7 in front of it. I
mean,
want to see it.
You're really not doing much until you see a 7.
Yeah,
You're not. I mean, anybody can kick a 66-yarder. Can you kick a 70? The answer is no so far. So
Mevis. Get Mevis in there.
I don't know that Mevis would
thicker kicker.
Harrison
I think
Mevis.
he might be a little more thicker.
Who's he with?
Who is he with now?
I
You
think
should
he's
know that.
Panthers.
I was gonna honestly, I was gonna say Panthers, but I doubted myself. It was the first name that popped in my head, and I'm like, am I thinking of Harrison Mevis, or am I thinking of Jonathan Brooks, the running back?
Sorry.
Oh wait,
was with the Panthers.
Well, that's unfortunate.
So
so that's what I learned. Sterling, what'd you learn?
I learned that Harrison Mevis
that
was
doesn't
with
count.
the Panthers. I learned about the dead ball snap.
Oh, yeah.
With Creed Humphrey getting and talking in more detail. I've
was
done
nice.
a little deep dive into it, and there's some nuances to it, some positives, some negatives. But for someone who struggles with their snapping, the dead ball snap is the way to go. They teach it a lot in college. It had a huge resurgence, or should I say an integration, in 2009, especially in the college game. They did a little deeper dive in 2017. Basically, what it does is it makes it so it eliminates bad snaps. It makes it way harder to have a bad snap when you do this dead ball style. The one issue that it causes is sometimes it can take a second for, A, the ball to get back compared to a spiral, and 2, the center actually starting to block. Sometimes it takes them an extra millisecond to get into their stance because you have to do it when you're on your back, your heels rather than your toes. So just a little interesting tidbit of, let's watch Creed Humphrey this year.
Does he dead ball snap all the time?
He
does now. He's completely changed his snap. So last year he snapped with the hand on the laces like you were throwing a football, and now he's switched to a dead ball snap. And apparently that's making all the difference in the world, and his snap should be fixed.
So wanted to say that I did a little research into that bad boy. So some minor minutia there, if you will, in regard to the
$60 million dead ball snapping. That's what that is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of guaranteed millions for snapping that ball like a dead ball instead of a live ball snap.
Yeah.
So what did you learn, Mick?
I learned that since 2010, the Yankees have spent in payroll $3,093,188,177 and have less World Series hits than Zach Greinke.
That's such an amazing stat.
He's got two.
Stat.
Zach's got two.
Wow.
World Series
I
hits.
knew he had at least one.
He's got two.
By virtue of you saying that.
So, yeah, and that would have been really bad if the Yankees had made a World Series and just gotten one hit. But they haven't made a World Series since then after spending $3 billion
Well, they should
in
have spent
payroll.
$3 billion on Zach Greinke.
That's what would have made
That's
sense.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the lesson learned there.
Seems smart enough. What'd you learn, Dylan, besides that?
I learned that upcoming 2024 weekly zone guest and friend of the show, Field Yates,
Oh, my goodness.
was playing a game of beach football to determine the order of their draft for fantasy football this year. Unfortunately, came away on the injury report. He had a broken shoulder, per Adam Schefter.
Yep.
Wow.
Brief hospitalization, but he has been discharged and is aiming to be ready for opening day, so he will be on the show, and that won't hinder anything. But, yeah, feel bad for Field there, man.
Did you see how it happened?
No, I
There's
didn't.
video of it.
Oh, there's video.
So they're
I
on
did
the
not.
beach, and they have like one of those football dummies that you can go and tackle. And so I think it's like an obstacle course or something. So as he's running, they're like, finish, full tackle. And, he's tired, and he goes and tackles it. And as he lands, he slides to his left, and you see his shoulder just dig into the sand. And he tumbles over, and he gets up, and he's holding his left shoulder. And somebody goes, did that hurt? And he goes, yeah, that hurt. And you can see, like, the shoulder is, like, down.
Yeah.
Like, it is a drop shoulder at that point. I think it might have been his right one, whatever. But, like, he tackled the dummy, but as he landed in the sand, his shoulder just stuck. Probably because he didn't have a lot of energy left, whatever it was that they were. I'm assuming you do this obstacle course, and the time you get determines your pick. And so you're busting your butt to try to get a top score.
Well, hopefully he still got a good pick.
I hope he did. I hope he did.
Did you see
as
the
well.
picture though? It was great. The Adam Schefter tweet, like,
Oh,
had
of
the
him in the
breaking
hospital?
and all the like graphics they use for football players is great.
Yes.
Great.
Does anybody have? It reminded me of what the Diamondbacks did. Did anybody have the Diamondbacks?
I did not.
Okay, in their fantasy football draft order.
Oh, I saw that. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Torey Lavillo, the manager for the Diamondbacks, took batting practice, and each player that was in the league was given a numbered baseball, and he didn't know which player was which. Neither did the players, and so they would throw in batting practice, and the farthest the balls went determined the draft order.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so there was like whoever got Jock Peterson's ball was a pop up, and Tommy Pham was like, exactly, that's what you get, Jock.
So did anybody? They throw at Lovello like he threw at Bobby Witt Jr. By the way,
Merrill Kelly got the first pick because Lavello hit one off the fence.
Nice.
For Merrill
That's
Kelly.
pretty good.
And he popped up Jock Peterson.
How about Isbell
great.
ruining a chance at a cycle yesterday?
No, Hampson.
Oh, Hampson, yeah, it wasn't Isbell. Hampson, yeah.
And then he walked up there and hugged the
sorry about
Garrett's.
that.
Sorry about that, man.
He should be the new bullpen arm.
That was 57 miles an hour, though. I feel like
Yeah.
there was time to get out of the way.
That's what it's like. Move out of the way.
Yeah.
You're fine. All right, funniest. We start with you, Sterling. What was the funniest from the weekend?
My toe.
Okay.
I have turf toe. I've had it for a long time. I have no idea how Holmes ever played through that in any sort of fashion in a football game.
I have an idea.
But, yeah, he's stronger than me and maybe some medication.
And he's tougher.
That's why I said stronger. That's kind of hand in hand.
You can be stronger and not tougher.
Okay, he's also tougher than
Thank
me.
you.
And you drink more beers, too.
I was playing, and it's kind of been off and on heel, just playing basketball yesterday, and I heard it last night playing basketball. And why this is funny is, one, it hurts me, which I figured is funny for everyone else listening.
It's supposed to be your funniest.
But two, I had to try and pretend that I was not injured when I came home. I can't put pressure on. I can't walk.
no.
But my wedding is soon, and I know if my fiance sees it, she'll be like, this is why you shouldn't have played basketball, and she'll be like, you shouldn't play basketball until after the wedding. But I can't give that up.
Can you?
Because ball is life.
Oh, God.
Is that right?
So, wait, do you walk with a limp?
Yeah, I've been walking with a limp. I've been walking there on my heel.
He's like
my
50.
My right.
Been hit with a few, but he walks with a limp. He's all right.
You should see the other guy. Many men
Mike.
wish injury upon me.
Is that right? That on the basketball court.
On the basketball court.
Yeah.
I
Got
still
turf
finished
toe.
it.
You should see the other guy.
Hey, I still finished the game though.
You should see the court. I feel like your wife is right in this situation.
I should wait till after the wedding.
Yeah, if you're getting hurt playing basketball, maybe don't play
turf toe.
basketball.
Just a
until-
little turf toe.
Just a little turf.
What if
toe.
you had to choose between her and ball?
Come on.
He chooses her. That's obvious.
Is it?
He's
I'm choosing
choosing
her.
ball.
But I'm choosing.
No,
No.
that look was not her. You're
That was
saying
But ball is life.
That was ball.
Yeah,
Ball is life though,
your
man.
your
That's
words,
your her. That's your bride. Ball is.
Your words for the radio were I'm choosing her. Your face was, come on, man, it's basketball, obviously. And luckily she's not giving me that
That was your
ultimatum.
face.
Dog, I'm just
So-
trying to ball out like a bad serve. You know.
Okay. Mick, what was the funniest for you
thank
from the
God it's to
weekend?
me. So Auburn's depth chart, at least on defense, at D tackle, it's listed as Philip Blighty or Malik Blockton or Gage Keys or TJ Lindsey. At nose tackle, it's Isaiah Rakes or Jason Jones or Trill Carter or Quintrell Jamison Travis. Every single position is 3 or 4 deep.
Oh, my God.
From buck to dime to star to free safety to middle linebacker, every single position.
Out of control.
All has or after every one of their names.
It's out of control.
Hugh Freeze, because he did not want to give the decided advantage to Alabama A&M, who they open up with.
That's right. Alabama A&M, if they knew who was starting at defensive line, they would have such a schematic advantage.
If they knew that Jalen McLeod was starting over Kieron Crawford at Buck, they would have an advantage.
Yeah. I mean, I'm totally with you on that. Good God, it's gotten so out of control, man. Dylan, what was the funniest for you from the weekend?
The funniest for me, I don't know if you guys follow College Sports Only. It's actually a really good account that does just.
I thought you were just saying, I don't know if you guys follow college sports, but there was this football game that took place over the weekend.
After DJ Uiagalelei, I hope I nailed that. I probably did not.
I'm going to say no.
You did not.
You were leaking oil. You were leaking oil halfway through the last name.
Power through that.
Just confidence just seeping out of you.
He was rated right above C.J. Stroud on the Rivals.com rankings.
He was.
When they came out of high school, I find that hilarious just because of how all the NIL stuff works now. And can you imagine if it was just like, we got to get DJ? I'm not trying. DJU.
He couldn't even win at Clemson.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
was 2 colleges ago.
Yeah, he went to Clemson. And it's like, okay, they got the replacement for Trevor Lawrence.
He was featured on QB1, that Netflix series, because he was a sophomore. He's the backup at Don Bosco Prep. They're featuring the senior. Senior was struggling. He got benched. In came DJ
Uiagalelei.
Ooh, that's on the right. That sounded good.
I set the bar low enough that you guys are fine.
I have no idea.
Uiagalelei or something like that. And he came on, and he was great, and he was a national recruit already, even as a backup. And then, 3 colleges later, still losing big games.
That should be a deterrent for the NIL collectives of like, let's see a couple games here before we just go and offer every single thing to these kids. But we know it won't.
Yeah.
That won't change anything.
My funniest from the weekend is somebody who I don't even care if he's good at playing quarterback anymore. He is the best at pregame speeches. And if the Chiefs have to go down the route of having a backup quarterback and they ever get out of the business of the Chad Henneys and Matt Moores and Blaine Gabberts and Carson Wentz's of the world, then maybe give Jameis Winston a try. This is Jameis Winston before the 3rd and final preseason game in which the Cleveland Browns were taking on the Seattle Seahawks. This is Jameis Winston leading the pregame speech to the Cleveland Browns.
Hey, man, it ain't just about having fun, man. Yes, sir. Remember the time you played your best football game of your life. Yes, sir. Remember the time after that victory you went to CC Pizza and celebrated with the boys. Okay. For real. Feel it in your heart, man. It's a long way back to Cleveland. Yeah. Let's not leave it without a victory. Yeah. All right? So put everything you got on the line today. Let's have a game of memory, man. All right? I remember. Let's go. Family number 3. 1, 2, 3, boom.
That's great.
I mean, I remember the time we had a big game and we all went to CC's Pizza. I remember that. I didn't know, is CC's Pizza nationwide?
I think it might be,
Apparently it's nationwide because Jameis, that's where he and his friends went.
At least in Florida.
That victory, you went to CC Pizza and celebrated with the boys.
Yep, I love the background. Yep, I remember that. I remember CC's. Now I'm ready to play.
What about the
now let's go get it.
W's, though?
Eat some W's. Oh, absolutely. He's going to eat some W's. That's what I'm saying, man. He's just a pregame speech guy now.
Or the
that's what he's there for.
Are you strong?
I'm not as strong as maybe you would think I am. I'm not as strong as I look. I mean, let's just say that. I mean, because let's be honest. Because that can mean it for anything. You know, you might not look strong. It doesn't mean that and then you're not even as strong as you look, and you don't look strong. That's sort of where that's the area I'm living in right now.
I'm Team Jameis Winston. I will never not.
I am most of the time on him as well.
Yeah, I'd say most. I think most.
Jameis most.
Yeah, I like the pregame speeches.
Yeah.
Keep giving the pregame speeches.
No, he's a wordsmith. He's come up with some phrases, has he not?
Yes. I remember. Let's go, family on 3. Let's have a game for memories here.
memories.
They ended up losing that game. It was a long trip back to Cleveland. They lost to the Seahawks. Best, we start with you, Mick.
Best for me was, might be taking it from you guys. I don't care. It's Salvador Perez just showing up at a wiffle ball game and having fun with the kids and that going viral. And it looks like it was just impromptu, wasn't invited, just saw him playing. I'm going to go hang out. Even if it was planned, even if it was for the clicks, whatever, I love it. Giving back to the community that's a memory those kids will have and video those kids will have for the rest of their lives.
Well, and then there's a follow-up. So, like, the friend that Salvi was going to go and visit came back a couple days later with a Salvi signed bat and then put Salvi on FaceTime with the kids as just sort of a follow-up. The one thing I did want to know is, though, it was one signed bat.
A lot of kids.
Who gets the Salvi signed bat?
They said it was the
fastest kid, the best athlete.
They ran.
The one they had a deal on the beach where he had to tackle a dummy.
It's actually at Field Yates' house.
Field was trying to win that. He lost
randomly.
I do believe they gave it to the person whose house it was at, the kid whose house was at.
Yeah.
I mean, those who host win the most. That's what I learned in high school about house parties.
You play
and
King of
stuff.
the Mountain. Whoever wins that, okay?
Exactly.
That's what I learned in high school.
That's what you learned. No, but that was really awesome what he did, and more stories coming from that. So just like I'm just gonna stop and play wiffle ball with these kids, man. And I thought it was great. Whoever was pitching to him, like he throws a pitch on the outside and Salvi fouls it off. Then he throws one low and away, and Salvi took it.
He knows who he's pitching
Salvi
to.
took it. He was like
Good.
almost, and he
Oh,
took
man.
it like. See, even Salvi's like, nope, not gonna. I'm not falling for it. No way, not falling for it. All right, best for you, Dylan.
Best for me was Shady McCoy being inducted into the Eagles Hall of Fame this weekend.
Okay.
And that's another Andy Reid. And if you want to tack on Brett Veach, draft pick, joining the Eagles Hall of Fame.
There you go. The best for me was Little Man got an opportunity to be one of the Chevy All-Stars that they have at Kauffman Stadium on Sundays. The Chevy All-Stars, you as a kid, you get to go out there and you get introduced with one of the players in the starting lineup for the Royals, and you get to run out on the field.
It's almost
with the
like
player.
how they do it in soccer every match.
Yes, exactly.
Why does every
match
soccer
in
player get a little kid
Yes,
before
that's
every
right.
match?
And so they introduce the starting lineup, and the kid runs out with that particular player. And Everett was hooked up with Bobby Witt.
No
Jr.
way!
Wow.
Did you pull some strings on that?
No, I did not.
Man,
I did not. We showed up, and he was excited. And the lady that was working there was in charge of the Chevy kids and all that. She goes, she looked at him. There was nobody else around, and she goes, "Have you been told who you're going out with yet?" I'm like, "No." She goes, "You're teamed up with Bobby." It's like,
which Bobby?
It's
Bobby Smith? Is
his
there a-
dad, or is there
senior?
Dude,
is there a
Bobby
third
Will
yet?
Smith.
Look,
Actually, Will's his middle name. It's Bobby. first.
Getting to do it and run on the field for the national anthem, so the
Yeah.
kids' hats are off and everything, is awesome no matter who they're joined with. But I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, he's going to get Garrett Hampson in center field. he's going to run out to center. Or if they asked him like what position you play, he plays first base. Salvi was playing first yesterday,
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh, maybe he'll get Salvi. But she's like, yeah, we've got you connected with Bobby Witt. I'm like, that's awesome. So yeah, then they signed a baseball for him. Bobby talked to him
No
about,
way.
Yeah, Bobby
Do
talked
you
to
get
him about-
videos and pictures and stuff?
Oh
like
yeah, I
that?
got video. He was on the big screen when they showed him signing the autograph. Bobby signing the autograph for Everett was on the big screen, so I got all the video of that. He had a couple kids that he plays baseball with that were out there. Were like, "Hey, was Everett out there?" Yeah, that was Everett out there. Yeah, out there with Bobby Witt playing short. And then the first inning, the second batter of the game, Bobby Witt made an error. I said, "See, Everett, look what you did." Look what you did.
Butterfly effect.
Just
sliding doors moments there, Everett.
Did you touch his glove? Did you touch his glove?
Everett's Wally Pipp.
Did you talk to him? Did you dare talk to him?
You're a first baseman for a reason. You don't field the ball very often, okay? Good
Well,
night, man.
Considering the result on some Sunday, hopefully the Royals never do that again. Listen, playoffs are more important than kids' dreams.
That's exactly right.
You
That's
know?
what I've always said. Just as you talked about with Salvi there. Playoffs are more. It's the same story with you and Salvi.
Same deal.
Sterling, we end with you. What was the best for you from the weekend, buddy?
I just think college football being back.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
the
with you.
best. I know it's kind of cheesy, but
No, I'm
it
with
really
you.
you have a certain feel when you're sitting there at 11 a.m.
Yes.
And there's so many. They make so many mistakes out there. I love it.
Yes.
The coaching too. The end of game play clock management of some of these were so bad. I'm like, what are we doing?
It's
But I love this.
It's just chaos.
It is.
It's just chaos, but it's American chaos.
It's American
and
chaos.
I love it.
Remember when Andy Reid was an idiot at the end of games before he
Oh
got
my God.
Patrick Mahomes, and now Patrick Mahomes is only good because of Andy Reid
I
being one of the
I
greatest.
never thought he was an idiot with Kansas City.
Crazy.
I feel like
Just talk about the national reputation. Those that dismiss Patrick Mahomes, like, oh, it's,
show me a coach you think's an idiot in game management. I'll show you your coach,
yes.
right? Because
That's
everybody
exactly right.
thinks that.
Also, I was going to say this before we started Learn Funniest Best. It happened. Danny Jansen, the Red Sox, Blue Jays. Danny
that's what it was
Jansen,
today.
the same at bat, was subbed for, and he was also subbed in to play catcher in the exact same. In his at bat, he also caught.
That's awesome.
That happened today. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up the show next. All right, wrapping up the show. Thank you, Nick, for coming in. Appreciate it, buddy.
Anytime, boys.
Anytime.
Let's do this more often.
We should. Look, you know what? What about Wednesday? You free?
Yes. Can't do tomorrow.
What about Friday?
Yep. Can't do Thursday.
Okay. So if you come in Friday.
This like I do these shows like I do college classes. I just do Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay.
I want Tuesdays, Thursdays off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only 1 hour a week.
That's it.
And you're
That's-
getting 3 credit hours.
That's
this semester.
it.
Good for you. Good for you.
I'll graduate in about 20 years.
That's right. The 30 extra minutes you do on Friday is just a lab.
It's a lab. It's like
doesn't-
study
you don't-
hall type
You don't
deal.
get extra.
Yeah.
The lab is part of
Yeah.
it. Sorry, it's still only 3 credit hours.
I'm your teacher's assistant.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, you're the TA?
I am the TA.
Yeah, you got to keep you in line. You and Dylan. Huh? All right. That'll do it. Program up next right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.